the seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday night and Bustalgia is back after a week off, after all of the carnage, I guess we could call it, of last week's quiz. Yes, with the Boise Burrows and Liam taking part in the big fat quiz of the year. Yeah, the Boise bus, Bustalgia bus is back on the road again. The time traveling bus is on the move, and we've got another, similar to what we did a few weeks back, we've got another in the Versus sub-series of Bustalgia, because tonight it is all about the goalkeepers union, that niche position on the park. It is all about the two best goalkeepers, arguably, that Celtic have had in recent history. I expect it's going to be a very close one compared to the last one that we did, because that was an absolute mauling between Dembele and Edward. But tonight it's all about Artur Boruc and Fraser Forster. So I'm looking forward to talking about this. So yeah, guys, let's go round the table, because as you can all see, we've got an expert panel to discuss this one tonight. So Russell Boyce, how the devil are you, mate? You looking forward to this one?
Aye, mate. I'm amazed Liam's back. I thought we'd officially chased him off the bus last week, me and my brother's antics. Never thought I'd see Liam again. So thanks for coming back, Liam. Good to see David on. Loved last night's show. I was out I spent a fortune last night in various places, and never enough for me. The way I had to come home, crack open a can, and watch the bus at 2:30 in the morning. I've had a full shift today. Do you know what I mean? Hopefully, no one for work's watching this right now. Honestly, I was like, this is really, really good podcast, man. Like eating a bag of crisps with a can, right? So I think it was brilliant, David. So well done, anyway, mate. I trust my drunken judgment. I'm messaging the boys with a tear in my really, really great content, guys. Fuck off. Mcginlay must get all these messages off me and be like, what am I doing? Working with him, by the way? He's a Raj.
It was a lively one. It was a lively one last night, to say the least, of the old TNF. But yeah, it was a good one, though. You were right. It was very good. The judge was laying down the law again.
He never misses. He never misses, does he, Mark?
Used to like the naughty schoolboys when I'm away, though. I'm telling you, David, Logan, Mark, Kearney. If I'm off, right, any night, and someone's standing in, those two are instantly on the show, and their characters just that wee bit naughtier.
I like winding him up. I enjoy winding him up. I like bringing out the fire in the judge, and he comes out swinging like. It's good.
It's brilliant to watch. It's brilliant to watch. It really is.
He actually
Live,
he
well done.
messaged me. He messaged me the other day when the game was on, and he's like, "I'm sorry, Dave. Barnaby's shite, mate." And I went, "I never said I disagreed with you, but I wanted to see what you'd say if I said he wasn't." You're like puppets on strings. Go just pull those
That's
strings.
it. That's it. I put out any bait for the judge, and he will bite 100%.
He does indeed. He does indeed. But hopefully tonight's show is just as good as last night's one, because it's Bustalgia versus series again. Liam, this is the second one we've done. You're looking forward to discussing this one tonight, mate?
I like the verses. I like it good. I like it when it's somebody that's close like this as well. But
yeah,
you know, as you know, I've done no research and all this, so I'm just going for my memory. All this is an opinion, conjecture, rumours and stories I remember being told in pubs and stuff like that. So,
Liam, you're the rock star of the bus, mate. You're absolutely allowed to do it that way, mate.
Well, you can do whatever you want, Liam. You do whatever you want, pal. No worries at all. Yeah, it's going to be a good one. They are definitely probably the best goalkeepers Celtic have had. It's a version of the Bustalgia thing where you don't need to do a lot of research on this one. It's just kind of like we'll just talk about the great moments that they had and that. So yeah, it should be fun to go through. David, you were on the last time we did the versus one, the French Eddie and Dembele one.
That was great fun.
Expecting a closer contest tonight, because if that was a boxing match the last time, that would have been over in the first round, mate. Dembele with the pole.
I think it certainly would be a much more interesting boxing match to watch with those two, I reckon.
It would be.
I think it might be a little closer, maybe.
Yeah, I would think so. We'll find out at the end, because I will divert.
It was a real shock the last one, Phil, though, wasn't it? I didn't expect. I was very much Dembele, but I didn't expect it to be as universal as that. I thought there would have been more votes for Eddie, but fucking hell, it was
94% to 6%, I think it was.
Right. I was surprised at that.
Yeah.
I wonder if people are still a little bit sore, maybe still hurting.
Should have been. I did think that way against Edward a wee bit. I think it did.
Yeah, maybe.
I will divert all of the viewers' eyes to the chat, where at the top there is a pinned comment with a poll on it. So if you drop a wee vote on that, I will see what the results are at the end. I can see there's already been some votes, but I've not checked the current results. But yeah, I will check in at the end of the show and we're doing a sort of final verdict on it, deciding on who's better. We'll see what the viewers say as well. And of course, you can also do all of that good stuff while you're at it. If you're a brand new viewer, just discovering the bus for the first time, you're like, oh, I like the cut of these guys' jib, then by all means, hit the subscribe button and click that wee bell to get the notifications into your inbox when we go live. We do go live quite a lot. There's always potential for 7 days worth of content. We definitely put out more than enough shows, and with Celtic playing pretty much twice a week at the moment, then yeah, there is definitely always a chance of that. Of course, if you are a long-time viewer of the bus, then hit that like button. What's your excuse? Come on, you know what to do. It's Christmas time as well, guys, so come on, the like button will help the algorithm a wee bit. Obviously, get involved in the comments tonight, because that's what we thrive on here. And this is a discussion one, a debate show tonight. So, yeah, we definitely want to hear everyone's opinions, favourite memories and moments for Fraser, Forster and Artur, Boruc. And, of course, if you wish to share the link of the Boise Bus on any social media platforms, that would be absolutely smashing. So, guys, quick trivia question. I think this is quite an easy one tonight. I had to do this quite late on, but I think it's not too bad. It's only 5 answers. So it shouldn't be too bad. I say that cautiously, because I know what happens usually when I say that. I usually get scowls and sort of dirty looks like, you bastard. So I'll fire away with this one. Tonight's trivia question relates to Fraser, Forster out of the two of them, and it's a squad number one. David Logue, I'm looking at you because you are a squad number guy like me. So
we've had 3 numbers since our bloody club, mate. Okay.
Fraser Forster, when he joined in 2010, he was given the number 26 shirt, a number we seem to give to goalkeepers quite a lot. There are 5 other goalkeepers in Celtic history that wore the number 26 shirt. That's what I'll be looking for tonight. So we'll come back to the answers at the end of the show, but there's only 5 other ones. But yeah, number 26 unusually always finds its way to a goalkeeper at Celtic. Strange.
Wow.
Yeah. Aye, so there's 5
Very
I'm looking for. So that is
why your eyes are lighting up already, though, David? I've
got one already.
How?
I've got one.
I'm sure I do.
We'll leave it at the end. We'll just go back to it at the end.
No, we'll leave it at the end.
Okay, no worries at all.
Impressive.
So, much like the last time we did the Versus one, the first half of the show isn't going to be this was happening in the world and all that. It's just going to be first half, we'll talk about one of the players, second half, we'll talk about the other one. And of course, we'll go in chronological order, and we may as well start with Artur Boruc because he arrived at the club first in 2005. Now, while doing my research for this, Russell, I had actually completely forgot about this little fact because when he joined us in the summer of 2005, he wasn't actually the first goalkeeper target that summer. Gordon Strachan actually targeted Antti Niemi, the Southampton keeper at the time. And no, he's not finished. He's 28. Insert that joke as appropriate, of course, because somebody in the chat's going to say it. Somebody's going to say that. I'm going to get in there first before it gets said. But yeah, Antti Niemi was on there because that bypassed me until I was reading his bio on the CelticWiki.com. And I was like, oh shit, I do remember that. But it did get me thinking, Gordon Strachan had a habit of that over this time as Celtic manager. He didn't really give a fuck about players like previous clubs because he signed Kenny Miller, signed Stephen Presley, signed Barry Robson. They all had Rangers on their CV before. Antti Niemi as well. Now, obviously, it was time at Rangers. He was the second choice keeper. Did all right at Hearts. Went down to Southampton and was doing all right. But I could have been oh so different, couldn't it, Russell? We very nearly signed him instead. But of course, it didn't quite happen that way.
But we've spoke and we've alluded to the fact we're going to do one day a show based on players that were linked that coulda, shoulda, woulda, Phil. We'll just do a full hour show on it one night, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so many great avenues. And if we do the research properly behind it and you find it, I mean, that wee nuggets like this are great because I would have actually completely forgotten that about Antti Niemi. And again, what I like about that, Strachan's only just in the door as well. Not afraid to make the statement of signing an ex-Rangers player. Obviously, he got Kenny Miller as well. Was that season or the summer after?
The next summer.
The next summer. But that shows you that wasn't, obviously he had zero issue about, players, previous clubs, etc., whether that be Rangers or not. And I've always liked to think we were a bit above that shite anyway, to be honest with you. It doesn't bother me either. You hear the bile that they're singing tonight, and honestly, it's fucking... I don't understand it, man. But at the end of the day, I think any player that's represented Rangers, but then further down the line, or even straight from Rangers, by the way, wouldn't bother me. It's just a shame they're all shite right now. But to be fair, if there was an opportunity in the future to sign an ex-Rangers player because they're good enough to play for Celtic, I think we should never rule it out on that basis. Do you know what I mean? And as for Antti Niemi, maybe doing him a wee bit of a disservice. I would say he was in the top 5 keepers for a couple of years in the English Premier League.
He was good. He was in Southampton. Very, very good. Very good keeper.
He did better than all right. He was extremely good. But I wasn't impressed with him at Rangers. And I never thought he played well for Hearts against Celtic. I don't know if you noticed that. He conceded a lot of goals against us. And he never seemed... But then, you look at so many of his other appearances in the English Premier League against... the top teams, and he really did do well. Would he have done a good job for us? Absolutely. Would he have been the holy goalie? Absolutely not.
No, of course he wouldn't, of course, because there was only one holy goalie. But yeah, that was what happened. We didn't get Niemi. We turned our attention to Artur Boruc, who came in initially on loan from Legia Warsaw. He didn't actually come in really as first choice because David Marshall had moved up to first choice. Robert Douglas had left. Marshall obviously had that amazing game in 2004 against Barcelona. Finished the 04 season as the number 1 keeper. But 04-05 had a bit of a stuttery time. Lost his place back to Robert Douglas, who ended that season. But Douglas is away now, so Marshall gets the nod. But it doesn't quite go very well for David Marshall, does it? Because the first game of the Strachan tenure was obviously, say it quietly, 5-0 loss to Armita Bratislava, which David Marshall was a goal for. Not necessarily culpable for all 5 goals that we lost. There was a left back in particular that was going walkabout, that was playing players on side and so forth. Kamara. Yeah. That was
his debut.
Yeah. I think Chris Sutton goes off in that game. It's a shambles of performance from top to bottom. But yeah, David Marshall ships 5. And then the next game, the first league game, we draw 4 each with Motherwell. We returned to the place where it all went wrong the season before, a chance to exercise the demons of the last season. And no, it was a 4 each draw. So yeah, Liam, 9 goals. David Marshall shipped in 2 games. In comes Artur Boruc. And he didn't look back after that because David Marshall never got back in. That was it. It was all about Artur Boruc going forward.
I seen Marshall. I went and saw Celtic versus AS Roma at the Sky Dome in Toronto. So quite a few years back, Marshall was in goal. And it was a good game, back and forward the whole time. And then in the last 2 minutes or something, I watched Totti chip him from, not even chip him, just put one past him for about 40 yards. And it got right in between his fingers in the bar. And it was like, it was impossible to not save. You know what I mean? It's like, how can you not save that? Yeah. And at that point as well, I wasn't bothered if we got him or no. Same with Nemi, as Russell said as well. I always look at, like when we get guys like Caldwell, I don't ever remember Caldwell on his hands and his knees or in his arse, you know, like when he played against us. It was always, you watch a Henrik Larsson highlight reel, you know, he's in the background huffing and puffing and cartwheeled across the pitch, you know. So, you know, I looked at Nemi like that as well. And, you know, I think, so I knew Polish guys in Toronto at the time, and one of them used to go to a lot of art parties. And there was one guy that was a football fan, and he was massively Warsaw supporter. And so he always singled me out to talk about football at these things. And so he had told me I told him Boruc was coming to Celtic. And he was giving me stories and all that and saying, this guy's one of the best goalies you'll ever see. He's brave. Like he was a fan favourite, you know. And so I knew there was a bit of character about these guys because they're a bit rough and tumble as well, you know. And, you know, like been on the terrace with the League of Warsaw mob. You know? Yeah,
character's definitely an appropriate word for Boruc, I would say, because I think we all quickly realised that he was a bit of a character. And funny enough, Celtic didn't even wait till the January window to exercise the right to buy him, because we actually announced it in October 2005 that we were signing him full time. We exercised the contract clause to sign him permanently because it was a loan with an option to buy. It's back in 2005 we were even doing that.
Here's something that's interesting though, Phil, right? See when you think about it, you look at Boruc joining for 500 grand, and I know we'll get to selling him and stuff. I think we got £2 million from Fiorentina, but at one point, I think his stock was a lot higher than that. Do you know what I mean?
Huge.
We probably could have got 6-7 million quid, which then would be like your 10-12 million now.
Was AC Milan not interested in him at one point? Am I right? Remember reading that?
I think there was probably a few, to be honest with you.
One that stands out, I definitely remember this story, whether there was any legs to it or not, but this was about the time that Oliver Kahn was going to be retiring from football, and Bayern Munich apparently had him on their radar at one point during the mid-2000s when, remember, like obviously the performance against Man United in the Champions League, and that was running about there. And Bayern Munich apparently were one of the teams that had him on their radar, but obviously we'll get to his departure in a wee while. But yeah, you're right. His stock at one point was way up here, you know, way up.
The point though I was actually going to make was with regards to that, you know, that Boruc potential fee we could have got, obviously should have, would have, could have, and all that stuff. But you look at Ecos 500 grand. You look at Magic Zarabski, who had an excellent first season then. I think he finished top scorer, 20 goals in 22 starts, something like that in his first season. It was a few sub appearances as well, but that was the sort of Giacomakis-esque goal ratio that is. And we'll not get into that. And then you've got Juranovic, who's came for Poland. 3 players that came for the Polish league. I'm surprised that's not been more of a happy hunting ground for Celtic when you consider it, because you're going to get value.
Yeah.
The standard of that league, whilst I think there'll be teams that are appalling, I would imagine the likes of Legia Warsaw are always going to have 1 or 2 gems in there. And I think very affordable market as well. It's surprising we've not went back there more often when you consider, okay, Zarabski's only a one-hit wonder, you could say, but top scorer. And then you've got, you know, the success stories of Boruc, and undeniably when Juranovic goes for $1 zillion that as well. Do you know what I mean? So I just find it quite, I'm just thinking that's 3 guys we've signed for the Polish league that have all came for Celtic fees. Do you know what I mean? Fees that you're comfortable with, and all had a fair impact. In fact, more fair impact.
David, we'll need to find a currency out there that we can use for Now we've got Dembele dollars. Obviously, it's an alliteration. We'll fill him with the letter D. We need something that begins with the letter J that we can use for Juranovic's inflated price when we sell him, you know, because as Russell says, when he goes for 1 zillion, whatever, we need to find a currency that begins with a J. So
Jura jelly beans.
Jura jelly beans, aye. But no, Russell is right. There is players. I mean, when you look at the Scottish Premier League, and the Polish league. There's similar. There's going to be players there that can definitely play at a level. And even if we had somebody that came in for one season like Zuraski, a 1 season wonder, and still scored 20-something goals, that's probably enough to push you over the line and win you the league. If you just did it for 1 season, fair enough.
I feel you're right. And also, not just that, I think there was another one we nearly signed, Barry Douglas.
Barry Douglas, that's right. He was Dundee United and he went to play for...
He went to Poland.
He did.
And then instead, I think we didn't... for whatever reason, I'm not going to make one up, which I was about to do there. He went to Leeds United instead and won Player of the Year.
So he did. Yeah, it was Leeds Eye. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that tells you as well, like, obviously I know he's Scottish, but he's went to that league, and then when he's came back, again, happy hunting ground. And I think these leagues are really important for Celtic to be tapping into, where it is still, whilst there still is the odd league out there that's affordable. I mean, I think even, you look at Croatia now, and because of their international success, those leagues are now suddenly becoming
they are.
Canny shop there, too dear. So, yeah, I wonder if we'll see more players come from the Polish league. Or is it just we're just going to be J-League All-Stars in 2 years' time?
Did anybody stand out? Did anyone stand out to us when they played that friendly? We played Liga Warsaw on that friendly for Boric's sort of testimonial. Did anybody really stand out? And because Liga Warsaw is like that's like the one Polish team that comes straight to mind when you think of the Polish league. I mean, obviously we've played them in Europe a couple of times, and obviously it left a sour taste in some of their mouths. But
that 3-0 victory that we got, I remember it very, very well.
Aye.
By the way, the second night in a row, Chunks and my Chunks come in with another £5 donation. I meant to give you a shout out last night on that one, Chunks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chunks, and I hope you're well,
Christmas.
mate. I hope you're you've got your best Santa suspenders on, mate. I can imagine you prancing about the living room right now, man. Do you know what I mean? You big horny bastard.
Well, David, just like Chunks of my Chunks is a cult hero around here on the Boise bus, Artur Boruc quickly became a cult hero in the Celtic shirt. And not only did he become a cult hero to us, but he became an absolute antagonist for our friends across the city. And this is like one of the crazy stories, I think, when you talk about Artur Boric's time, where he ended up getting a warning from police for one of the most absurd reasons ever, where a game at Ibrox, he blessed himself in front of the Copeland Road end when he went to his goal mouth, as he does because he's a Roman Catholic. He blessed himself. A lot of players do bless themselves when they go in the park. Goalkeepers spend 99.9% of their game in the 6-yard box, and he goes there and he blesses himself. And the Rangers fans were so unhappy about it that it resulted in him getting a warning from police. I don't think I need to... It's so obvious when to say, but absolutely ludicrous stuff. Surely, man, this is comical. Absolutely comical.
Right. 2,000 of them are there right now singing "F the Pope." Not one of them will be cautioned for that, but someone actually blessing themselves. That is a crime, or worth a warning. I mean, fucking the world is bonkers, man. Particularly this country at times. You know what I mean?
Yep, that's right.
Only that country.
It's absolutely mad.
Like that here, or in the States. Like, people look at that and just think, Christ, that's ridiculous. I mean, you can't bless yourself. Oh, no, it antagonises them. What do you mean it antagonises them? The guy, oh, all right.
Well, that's a them problem. That's a them problem, Liam, if that antagonises you.
It says a lot about our police force. Any other place, any other country in the world, well, certainly any place in the UK, certainly, that's a hate crime. But it's the boy that's just blessing himself in front of people, and he's the one being cautioned. No, the thousands upon thousands of them that are being antagonised and frothing at the mouth at a guy just, doing something that he does it every day. They're the ones that should be getting cautioned, not Artur Boruc.
David, you get into thought police at that time, right? It says, I know what you did, but we know what you meant by it. That's the way it's perceived.
Yeah.
For you, it's just crossing, but we know what it really meant, and so you can't do that. There's caution. They think it's antagonistic.
Sad little.
It hurts my brain trying to even get to that level.
It does.
You can see the same thing with them singing that tonight. Oh, it was only a bit of banter. It was a bit of football banter. Yeah, but we know what you really meant.
Yeah.
Exactly. We know what you really meant.
Like.
So yeah, it's just a piece of nonsense. But
aye.
But
it's one of these stories, David, where if you try to tell an outsider, like a fan of English football, that this happened, that it would blow their mind. They'd be like, what? Like, really, that was a thing. It's like, embarrasses Scottish football as a whole when you have to explain that story to an outsider.
Told this story before on the pod, I'm sure. I remember quite vividly reading that Chicharito, when Man United were playing a game at Ibrox, was told, because he would normally go out to the centre circle and he would bless himself and pray in the middle of the centre circle before kickoff. He was told he wasn't allowed to do that against them. He had to do it in the change room before he came out. It was warned by the police. Remember that? I mean, could you imagine now? We in this country, I don't want to say we're used to that, and what I would say is we're not surprised to read that. But I could imagine the guys down in Manchester, or even like the player himself, going, "What? What do you mean I can't? I do that at every ground I play on. Like, what do you mean I can't do it in this ground? Like, it must be absolutely mind-boggling." But yeah,
aye,
like I said, in this country, we're not surprised by it.
No,
unfortunately,
that is a sad reality. We're not surprised, but on more sort of, I'll say, light-hearted ways of winding them up. He wasn't afraid to let them know how he feels after all of that as well, because it would. There was a middle finger instant after one game. There was another one where we lost after we'd won the league in 2007. We got beat in the sort of dead rubber game at the end of the season. He then went to the Celtic end, grabbed the Celtic champions flag and proudly walked off the park waving the Celtic champions flag as he headed for the tunnel, which wound him up. And of course, Russell, there's images out there where he was quite he wasn't afraid to basically shun them when they went for a handshake, like Barry Ferguson trying to shake his hand and he'd be like, fuck off. And there's another one where he's got his hand around David Weir's neck, because if there was a post-match scrap in a Celtic Rangers game at that time, you could bet your bottom dollar that Artur Boruc was right in about it, wasn't he?
Aye, he's got that. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there was a bit of him that, he had that real devilment about him, didn't he?
Chaos, but a goalkeeper version. Chaos Jack Maggie, the goalkeeper.
Aye, but without pulling his hamstring every 2 seconds. You know what I mean? I think he was a wee bit. I think there was a bit of devil. I think Boruc was one of those folk who quickly realised the buttons to push for that lot were quite big and quite easy to press. I think.
Yeah.
I think he just, oh fuck it, I'm pushing another one, and I think he kind of thrived in that. I think Boruc is, as in a sporting context, I think he's one of those guys who needs a chip on his shoulder to get the best out of him. I think you get that with some folks. Sometimes you need wound up. Sometimes you need a wee bit of fucking needle. Sometimes you just need told, those bastards are going to be booing you every touch, Boruc. They're going to be calling you this, calling you a Catholic, this, that, yada, yada. And goes, that fucking right. And that almost, for some players, that triggers them. Matt Wilson would probably have stayed in the changing room. Do you know what I mean? But then you got other guys who I think that's what they need.
Thrive on it.
Aye, they just, that wee fucking...
Ruthless aggression.
Ruthless aggression, yeah.
But sometimes you do need, I just think that wee bit out, that wee flame lit a wee bit, you know what I mean? And with others, it's not like that. It's just all about, I'll stick to focusing on my job and close all the noise out. I think Ange is like that. I know he's not on the park, but I think he's very much tunnel vision, and that's how he achieves his sort of best bits. I think other people need to be taking in all the other factors, need a picture on the dressing room wall and things like this, and need to see what Hugh Keevins, for example, has been saying about them. I think that triggers and gets the best, by the way, of certain individuals, and I think Boruc was one of them.
If you take that away out of his game, he loses a massive part of almost what he brings to the team. Like I always like to think of like a Luis Suarez as an example. Like that's just who he is. If he isn't that aggressive on the pitch, then he loses a massive part of the qualities that he brings to his game. It's the same with Boruc. Like I said, it's like you said also, it's this chip on his shoulder, this point to prove in every game. I'll fucking show you.
Yeah.
Like, and if he didn't have that attitude, I think you lose a fair bit of quality out of his game.
I also think as well when he's came in, we need to bear in mind, yes, there's the 2 displays by David Marshall, Phil Wright, that were, I think, a team collapse. 9 goals in 2 games ain't all in a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
But we also need to remember the moments we're going to be reflecting on here by Forster and Boruc. Let's not forget, David Marshall had similar ones at the new camp, funnily enough, as well. And then at Ibrox, I think his display at Ibrox was unreal. This guy came in from nowhere. So again, it wasn't like Boruc was coming in going, you're going to be guaranteed the number one first choice. Who he was up against then was, firstly, we love, when our youth players come through. We love someone who's, one of our own and all that stuff, right? David Marshall was very much that. And David Marshall, let's be honest, had been the golden boy initially. Remember, he'd scooped it over Saviola's head because he came on for the second half. He actually scooped it, didn't chip it, scooped it. Old school. And then he put in that display at the new camp, which was unbelievable. And then again at Ibrox, he pulled off a save. I don't know if you remember it. It was headed, I think, into the ground, and it's going top bins, which is far harder to save than it going straight to the top corner. And he got his right hand over, and it was, he was one of these boys that you thought he'll be our keeper for the next decade.
Yeah, coming in so young.
So see for Boruc coming in then, again, that sort of competition there. I wonder if that actually very much helped his poise and his sort of drive. I think so. But I don't want to forget, David Marshall, despite those 2 games, Liam, he was, he had a lot of credit in the bank, in my opinion. And I think people forget that. He had a huge impact. And also, just very quickly, that was the toughest school to come into as a youth player. Sound the klaxon, but that Martin O'Neill team, they were men, though. Do you know what I mean? So to break into that team at 18 years old with that pressure on you and with those players growling at you for any sort of mistake was a tough school, and he overcame all that. So I think that, I don't think that was as easy a job as Boruc made it look to be the undisputed number one at Celtic. I'm ranting a wee bit, but
I think one of the things that helped Boruc was coming from Liga Warsaw. I think when you look at the similarities between the clubs in size and support, I mean, they are a well-supported club, and they've got like roots and fan groups like ours that are very, very similar. And so he grew up being a fan of theirs, and you've seen it. He's practically an ultra, right? When you see him kicking off the singing and all that stuff, in their stadium, even when he goes back now. So I think him coming to Celtic and getting that opportunity, he saw how we celebrate players. And I think he jumped into that same sort of space and went, wait a minute, okay, I know what that feels like in my home. I want to see if these guys can embrace me as well. Because he'd already felt that, and he knew what it was like to be a fan playing for your club. And so I think that's how he became a fan of yours as well too,
Well, Liam, there was a comment I had up a wee while ago just about, like, Russell was saying how the guy with Boruc thrived on a bit of chaos. And the comment I had up was saying, I wonder who Aidan McGeady would vote for in this one, because he wasn't afraid to have a wee boxing match with his own teammates. Because one that springs to mind, obviously, is the Wee Naylor one when we beat Spartak Moscow that night in the qualifier at half-time. They're walking off the park. Wee Naylor had played, I think, a bad back pass to him. He was fuming about it right on half-time. And the two of them were basically square going with each other, walking off the park. And of course, you've heard the stories that Aidan McGeady said on Open Goal about Gordon Strachan was like the disgruntled parent having to watch his 2 kids always fighting each other between Boruc and McGeady. The two of them were always going at it. But again, that was just part of Boruc's character, wasn't it? Just the madman that he was.
Aye. I mean, having a good goalie is like having a good drummer, it's always better when they're just that wee bit mad, And, Yeah, and I think sometimes you need that tension in a dressing room as well to just sort of keep the balance and the flow of the team all together. That you got to have that big dog and the 2 different boys have to fight each other in the room. That's how our team molds and gels and all that, and that's good leadership. And fucking hell, man, big balls and McGeady for going up against that monster, huh? I keep thinking, what a mismatch that is.
For all of McGeady's brilliance. For all of McGeady's brilliance to him, he'd have been a fucking pain in the arse. Do you know what I mean? Like, imagine him in the WhatsApp group chat. He'd have been biting at fucking every single comment. Do you know what I mean?
I know.
Do you know what I mean? Oh, so I wonder if the big holy goalie he didn't strike me as someone, Phil, who had a filter.
Yeah, I would think so.
So I don't think he was putting up with it. I don't care a fuck if you're 19, mate. Fuck off. Fuck off.
I'm trying to remember in my head, I've watched the McGeady interview on Open Goal, but it was obviously one of the first interviews he did. But it was a known instant where they got into a square go at training and Strachan, somebody ran up and told Strachan in his office, and he just kind of shrugged it off like.
No, he said, I hope he knocked him out.
That was it. Aye, that was it.
I hope he knocked, did he knock him out, or I hope he knocked him out. But apparently the worst bit was McGeady's went for round 2, if you like.
Aye.
Boruc is in the showers of his own, and McGeady ran into the showers, I think, to attack him and slipped in his fucking arm. So Boruc is back over him like that, and they're all having to haul him off all over again. Do you know what I mean? Again, though,
man.
Again, you look at that, Bobo Baldi's still cutting about then as well. I mean, that'd be a, don't get me wrong, my money's on Bobo. I was going to say my momo's on Bobo there. Didn't know that.
Get that on your next t-shirt.
My momo's on Bobo. But like Boruc and Bobo, no shrinking violets and two giants. I mean, imagine if they were bickering, or I say bickering loosely. I mean, if they were arguing, I think that changing room clears.
Yeah.
Even if you're in your pants, you're like, fuck it, I don't care. Just leave my stuff. I'm away. You just get the fuck out of there, eh?
Just leave them be. Just let them settle. Because that's the sort of dying embers of a Neil's team, but it's going into Strachan's era. But Strachan was obviously sort of like a wee wisecracker as well, the way he was headstrong and stuff. So, there was still elements there. Even some of the players that Strachan brought in, they could mix up with them as well, and that had that same mentality. Here's
one more takeaway I've got on this, right? See what you're talking about there. Sorry I'm interrupting, but it's quite interesting now.
Sorry.
You've got to think Boruc must have been a Strachan production as a signing.
Aye.
I'll tell you why. Because if he was on the list, that would have been a position, because I think Patrick McLaughlin in the comments was right. He's saying, well, remember Marshall actually fell out the team again, and Rab Douglas is fucking somehow back in at the back end of the 05 season. But you think, I think if O'Neill had doubts on sign and they had an Artur Boruc on the shortlist already, he would have came in that January window, before then. So you've got to think, and by the way, as well, that must be one that O'Neill does look back on and go, he would have been perfect. Because he had the right attitude. He could have handled himself in that dressing room, and no doubts about it. Yeah, I think we win the UEFA Cup.
We do. We definitely do. I could just think of Boruc in there with Larson, Sutton, Hearts and all the sort of prime Thompson when they were all, the Seville season and stuff, and that would have been phenomenal. But it was always a blind spot with O'Neill with goalkeepers. And it's a trait. A lot of managers, brilliant managers, have had blind spots with goalkeepers. Alex Ferguson had a bad time when Schmeichel left. Remember, he went through a bunch of different keepers. Then Barthez came in, and then he kind of fell away. Well. It was until Van der Sar came, where he finally had a proper Schmeichel replacement. So even the best managers can get it wrong with the goalies. But one thing I want to bring up though, some goalies, some players have got certain grounds, David, where they might have a wee bit of a hoodoo, bit of a mixed bag. And for some reason, I don't know why this is, just one of these strange things that happens, but a lot of the infamous moments where Artur Boruc came at Easter Road, good and bad ones, because we had a season in 08 where he palmed one right into the path of Dean Shields to score a tap in the last minute, and we got beat. And then we had one as well a season later when John Rankin scored what I believe was called the Swirler, or was it the Swizzler or something like that they called it. It was a volley for about 40 yards that just completely caught Boruc out. But the season after that, Easter Road, we had one where he pulled off one of the best saves I'd ever seen. David Witherspoon, who I think used to be one of our players as a youngster, hits one on the volley from outside the box, and Boruc is backtracking and has to tip it with his finger onto the inside of the post. And that's on Mowbray's season, before things really started to come off the rails under Mowbray. But Boruc, I don't know what it was, but there's just some grounds, some places where you're just synonymous with moments in their career. But Easter Road, for some reason, for Artur Boruc was he had some good moments, but some terrible moments as well. It's a weird one.
It's just one of those things where, like, a stadium or perhaps a player or whatever is maybe just in his head a little bit, and he almost maybe tries a little too hard, or it's like, I need to make sure I don't do that again and make an arse of it, and it overthinks it. Yep. It's just one. I imagine a guy like Boruc, like he was a maniac. He is a maniac. Like, he's not. I don't think he's ever going to be composed. So when it's maybe something like that does get into his head, he doesn't maybe he didn't have handled it so well. But was that not at the point where he was kind of like a bit more? He had a wee bit more timber on him, and he was there was questions around his. The
one with Rankin's goal definitely was. It was that season.
So you got a guy that's maybe not playing at his best abilities in terms of like his form and his training and that, but he's still that quality goalkeeper still in there. So like, you'll get the occasional time where like, okay, you're not quite the player you've been lately because of your maybe personal choices, but you've still got that quality in there that you're going to pull off that ridiculous save, and you know.
Aye.
But like I said, it's just like a chaotic mind like that has got something like that, a hoodoo over him. Maybe it's just a case of just a bit of a almost a bipolar type effect.
That just weird. It was always Easter Road. When I was looking through the highlights and just remembering some of the moments, I was like, he had some weird moments, some headline grabbing moments for sometimes the wrong reasons. But Easter Road. But I'll tell you something he was good at. He could hit a good penalty. Because guys, remember when he hit that penalty in the epic shootout against Dundee United? Maybe we should have stuck Artur Boruc on penalties over the years when we've had a sort of inconsistent run of penalty takers. Maybe Big Artur should have came up the park and took the penalties from time to time, because that was phenomenal that night. The 9-8, I think it ended on penalties that night against Dundee United in the semi-final. But that one always stands out as well, because I remember when it got to that point where it was just kept going and going, you're like, well, we're going to have to go over to the goalkeepers, because Zaluska was in goal for Dundee United, wasn't he? And then he signed for us at the end of that season. So, that was weird. So Zaluska even scored his penalty. But I remember Boruc's penalty when he was stepping up. You're like, oh, fuck, man, a goalkeeper taking a penalty. But probably one of the best penalties of the night. Pinged it right at the top corner.
Absolutely thunderstruck it, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. He did. But guys, of course, I've been putting off as a sort of main event of like his highlight is the one that many, many people go back to. Obviously, in European nights was always big for Artur Boruc. He had some great moments domestically, but European nights were where his stock went through the roof, and namely the 06-07 Champions League campaign, where we got through to the second round. We're a group with Man United, Copenhagen and Benfica, but the game that obviously lives long in the memory for many fans still to this day is a Man United game. Of course, it will always be remembered for Shinsuke Nakamura's unbelievable free kick with about 10 minutes to go. Ridiculous the length he was out from goal to even shoot was just like, I remember when it got awarded, because that was with the season 4. I got the season ticket. I remember the free kick award. Yarasik took a bit of not a dive, but it was a bit soft the way he went down. He kind of threw himself and won the free kick. And obviously on the TV, when you're watching it on television, you get the benefit of obviously all the camera angles. I remember when Nakamura placed the ball down and it goes to like the wide camera, and my first thought was, that's too far out. Like the camera's panning back the way, and it was like, it's best part of 30 yards. I was like, no, he's not going to shoot here, is he? Yeah, that's too far. No way is he going to ping it. But my God, obviously, no problem. Found the top corner, magnificent goal, amazing moment. Of course, that win wouldn't be possible, Russell, if it wasn't for what happened in the last couple of minutes, because Man United had a free kick of their own. Sean Maloney charges out the wall and it hits him in the arm, and the referee awards a penalty. Up steps Louis Saha. Then, of course, we know what happens next. Big Artur in goal.
Yes, and just the man for the big occasion. I think I've said this in the bus a couple of times to you, Phil. I felt in those European games, and by the way, we could be doing an Artur Boruc to now, because we concede chances, and that's the way we play. That's fine, but no offense to Joe Hart, but you won't save as many opportunities, I don't think, as an Artur Boruc or a Fraser Forster, who we'll talk about later. With regards to that penalty, I'll be honest, I felt 50-50. I said this to you before. The amount of one-on-ones we were left up against, Phil, was regular, because people need to remember we were achieving way beyond what that team should have been doing. Back fours of, Lee Naylor, fair enough, I thought he was excellent for a couple of seasons. But, Caldwell McManus and Paul Telfer as 3 or 4, but like that's taking the piss a wee bit for the Champions League, in my opinion. I no offense to them, but come on, and you're going to be in situations inevitably with that sort of team, Van der Snow in midfield and stuff, like where you're under the cosh and opportunities are granted to the opposition, one-on-ones, and I always felt 50-50. When it should be 80-20, you're like, I was thinking conceding here. I used to think, not just for penalties, and I know the penalty we're talking about right now, but just one-on-ones in general, these sort of environments, it made himself big. And I think as well, this is where the debate's going to get interesting with these two, because there's so many examples in Europe of Forster as well. So we're taking nothing away. But right now, when we talk about Boruc, the one thing he had in abundance, and people are talking about it in the comments, was his character. Yeah, I think that plays a role for the opposition striker as well. I think he had a mad presence, a vibe about him. He's aggressive when he's running out for one-on-ones, or when it's a penalty. you know it's Artur Boruc you're against. I'm not saying because he's worldwide famous by any stretch, but just the way he is. He's mad character. Whatever he'll have been saying to Saha before the penalty's taken, because you know it's going to be fucking bonkers and all in Polish, but sounds scary as fuck. And you're like, I think all these wee things play a role. And if you need to go to the dark arts, ask Jonathan Boyce last week.
Well,
Nothing wrong with that.
Look at Martinez at the World
Yep,
Cup.
exactly.
Yeah.
This boy plays for Aston Villa. He's just won the World Cup, Argentina. This guy was nowhere near getting into that starting lineup for Argentina until I don't know if it was an injury to their goalkeeper. He goes in and wins the Copa America by doing the exact same thing in the penalty shouts in those tournaments. He was in every single player's heads. He's standing in front of the goal. He's shouting stuff in Argentinian or whatever he's saying. And all I can think of is this guy plays for Villa. He plays at Aston Villa, and he's absolutely at every single one of these players' heads right now. And look how many times he's saved. Like you can argue he won them the World Cup. And
David, have you seen
he's a maniac. He's an absolute maniac.
Have you seen the one with Cristiano Ronaldo?
Sorry.
What was that, Liam?
I'm saying, do you remember what Boruc used to do to his goals before he went in? So you used to watch, and he'd do that before the penalty. He'd walk towards the penalty spot, and he'd stand it like that, and he'd go like that, and then he'd go, bring them all in, and that was him shutting the goal. He used to do it because I remember that.
Oh, what?
About that.
Wow.
It's like a battle drum almost. It's like he's,
But it's all the wee mind games. And I think he knew. See certain folk in life, right? You find this. They walk in a room and they fill the room, right?
Yeah.
That's it. For whatever reason. It's called, you say about someone, he's got it, right? No one knows what it means. Liam, you came across a bazillion of these people in your life. I'm sure you are one, right? But when you walk in a room, you know they're there. Artur Boruc walks over that white line, you know, probably after a couple of white lines, fuck knows. And he literally would be, well, I dare say he's dabbled to David, do you know what I mean? But he would go, I think when he walks on the pitch, I think he's there instantly. I think he's just got that aura, that persona. I mean, he's rushing out to close down people Inzaghi, whoever it may have been in a one-on-one. These guys might have been there, seen it, done it, but they'll also, through their experiences, know a different breed when they see one and go, fucking hell, he's going to be breathing. Yeah, I can almost feel his breath already because he's sprinting up his line. He's making himself big. As Liam says, he's making that goal tiny. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I think Boruc, if you were to look back and actually spend the time watching all our games a wee bit more at length, do you know what I mean, than just the goal, the Nakamura goals from those two Champions League campaigns, I think the number of opportunities Boruc was denying opposition when he really shouldn't have been, Phil, was really impressive. And I think, yes, natural ability is one thing, but I also can't help but think Liam's right. Like, there was a mental game going on with him from day one. And I think he had guys, I don't want to say scared, but what we will say is he put fucking more doubt in their mind than just a good goalkeeper would.
Yeah.
A goalkeeper of the same ability creates maybe 1% of doubt. He, with the same ability, but being Boruc and his mannerisms and the way he acted and conducted himself, puts 10%, 20% doubt in their mind. Do you know what I mean? And I think that was a huge untrainable, uncoachable talent or gift that he just had. And I love stuff like that because that's a real maverick.
It's something that you didn't really see much back then in football. I'm glad that David brought up Emilio Martinez because that's the first thing that came to my mind was you see the antics he does, that sort of getting in opponents' heads, And I was going to say there was a Cristiano Ronaldo one a year ago, Villa. It was a Man United penalty at Old Trafford, and Bruno Fernandes, or rather for the FIFA players out there, Bruno Fernandes was about to take it, and even Emilio Martinez is basically walking over and he's pointing at Ronaldo, going, You come and take it. You come and take the penalty. And Ronaldo's just kind of standing because Fernandes was the designated penalty taker. So Ronaldo's not doing it. He's like, you come and take it. Come on. I want you to take the penalty.
I remember that.
And Fernandes then missed it. And Martinez, in typical Martinez fashion, let them know all about
dance.
it.
He likes to sort this whole dance going on. It's like, what are you doing?
So nowadays it's more common to see things like that with goalkeepers. But back then, Boruc was, that was 2006, up to 2009. It was still quite rare to see goalkeepers doing that. Usually they just kind of got on with it. But yeah, it was he was good at getting in opponents' heads. But that night in particular, that save.
Phil, can I throw one in for the old guys? Bruce Grobbler. He played with
Bruce
Liverpool.
Grobbler, the wobbly legs on the line, the penalty
like
shootout.
dropping Master Kung Fu on the line, you know. Crazy Zimbabwean, isn't he?
Oh, aye. The European Cup final, was it Roma or something they were playing? He's doing all the wobbly legs on the line to put them off. Yeah, that was really to see back then. But yeah, nowadays it's more commonplace for a goalkeeper to do things to try and get an opponent's head. But Boruc was ahead of his time at that point in Scottish football in particular. But yeah, that big save against Louis Saha, say due to that, that's why the Nakamura free kick does live long in the memory, because had that game ended 1-1, while still a spectacular goal, we probably wouldn't have qualified from that group because we were terrible away from home. We lost the last game to Copenhagen. We'd have to go on away and won in Copenhagen. So that would have changed history completely. So it's a huge moment that Boruc saves that penalty from Louis Saha. And speaking of penalty saves in Europe, obviously a year later we had the Champions League qualifier against Spartak Moscow. I've said this before on the pod, but that was one of the first games I attended after getting a season ticket, and it's still one of the loudest I've ever heard it. When that final Spartak player came up to take that penalty, that was fucking eardrum busting loud, that one. And when he saves it, he does the wee jazz hand celebration as he runs away. And then Tommy Burns, Strachan, all the subs all come running on, they pile on top of him. It's a great moment. It's a brilliant picture. It lives long in the memory.
That game's legendary to me. Really is. But again, we talk about fucking the financial disparity and all this bollocks. There was a guy called Scott McDonald who started that night for us, 700 grand for Motherwell. And we all thought he'll be bought just to be a fucking sub. Do you know what I mean? As you would think now. Was he fuck? No. Was he fuck? And obviously, more importantly, the penalty shootout, Boruc's heroics, and that was an unreal night. And again, you're saying maybe, and Phil, you're very, very well qualified to make that comment on how loud Celtic Park is and compare it and contrast it, you know what I mean, with loads of other games that you've been to, you know, hundreds. And you're still saying that. Funnily enough, who comes alive in that environment? Boruc.
Boruc thrives on it.
Now getting back to it, isn't it? That trigger, that fucking that. Oh, I like this. This is hostile. This is going
he's a gladiator amongst a coliseum. Like it's just it comes alive. It's do or die for him every game.
You're right.
Big game player, and he came to the forefront of that one, and then that was the second season in a row that we ended up qualifying for the second round of the Champions League again. And of course, Boruc played his part, but sadly, Liam, as the case, you know, good things don't always last. They have to come to an end eventually. In the 08-09 season, things began to dip quite drastically for Boruc. It wasn't like it felt like a steady decline. Suddenly, it just kind of fell off a cliff. But there were a lot of incidents around it. There was off-the-field problems. He had marital problems that went public. He got suspended from the national team when him and some of his teammates broke a curfew. There was a game against Rangers early that season, and it's still one of the worst games I've ever attended. Hated it. They beat us 4-2. Kenny Miller scored 2 goals. One of the goals, Kirk Broadfoot crosses one in, and Boruc drops it right at Kenny Miller's feet for a tap-in. It was just like a huge fall from grace given what had happened just a few months before, the way we won the league dramatically at the end of the 08 season, some of the big moments that Boruc had. It just seemed to, at the start of the next season, things just seemed to explode. But I say a lot of things were going on off the park, but also another factor as well, there wasn't much competition for him because at that point it was still Mark Brown that was the number 2. And another big surprise was for his, you know, for all the antics that were going on with Boruc, you would have thought a sort of strong-minded manager like Gordon Strachan, who doesn't really take much bullshit, would have kind of kicked him into touch a wee bit and told him, get yourself straight, son. You know,
there isn't proper competition, Phil, though.
There wasn't. It was Mark Brown, wasn't it?
But Phil, you know, David mentioned it earlier, right, when he was talking about the decline there. It was the physicality of him. Like, he didn't become a worse goalkeeper and that, but we saw that his body started to change and all that.
Yeah.
It looked like he's training. So, I mean, that is on Strachan. He's still a player. It's not like Strachan can get up on him. And I don't think we have the sports science we have now as well, too, that we highlighted that before it peaked to the part where it became a problem and it was hard to go back, right? It was something that showed up in the daily data that, we're declining in these areas. And so I think, I don't know, like, so if he was about today, that would never happen because all the sports science and and all that would see, and so they would just try and keep him as prime physical shape as they could, you know.
Aye.
And also, by the way, what did we say earlier on? He was triggered by the fact he knew he was in a battle with David Marshall, a real battle. He knew it was feasible that, it could be one of the two of them getting the nod. And if your form drops, there's one there ready to take the slot. If we're aware as fans, there's downsizing going on, guys. The fucking players know it. Let's get that right. And he's looking at Matt Brown going, the reason is because there's probably a wage cap on the backup keeper being, only allowed to earn $5,000 a week. Do you know what I mean? It's probably one of the Lawwell's rules during that time. And that Matt Brown is never, ever, ever going to be competing for that jersey. And that leads to complacency. It's human nature. Human nature. You need to fucking get that in your head. Like, we've all got traits to us, right? We can all be acutely aware, Phil, of our surroundings. And I think if right, you've had 3 really good seasons at Celtic, and they're never strengthened in this position, and the guy who's number 2, but he may as well have been fucking number 10 in the list, let's be honest. It's going to lead to that sort of complacency. And I also think with Boruc, he's one of those characters who maybe at times, if encouraged to be a bit lazier, maybe takes that opportunity. I think he's someone, as we say, who needs the drive, needs the push, needs to be triggered, needs to be pissed off, needs competition. I think all these things combine, and it's not all in the keeper. That's a poor model by Celtic to think Mark Brown was ever a deputy for Boruc, because that is going for Marks and Spencers to fucking, I don't know, Aldi, but ShopRite.
It's like he was a wild animal that's just kind of got domesticated, and it was like he got comfortable in his new lifestyle. Whereas before he was fighting and clawing to make sure he was always on top. Now he's
Steve O'Ma's comments quite good there with Boruc was kind of an old school player, playing in an era that was arguably the start of the complete athlete modern day style. Mad as a box of frogs. He lived hard, he played hard, but it caught up with him eventually. I'd say that's a pretty good summary on it. But of course, the next season, some competition, if you want to call it that, did come in because Mark Brown was ousted, and then Lucas Zaluska, another Polish keeper, who was a bit of a madman as well, did arrive. And under Tony Mowbray, Boruc wasn't always getting a game every single week, whether that was still a bit of a decline with fitness and so forth. But it always felt like every time Zaluska played that season, we would suffer some of our worst moments because, of course, he was in goal when we lost 4-0 to St Mirren. Boruc did come back in at the end of that season when Lennon took over as caretaker manager and had quite a decent finish to the season. But as I said earlier on, a few years before, his stock was so high that his name was getting branded around with Bayern Munich, maybe being a replacement for Oliver Kahn. It's kind of sad that he kind of slipped out the back door in the summer of 2010 for only just over £1 million to Fiorentina. But it's just the way it went.
He was Poland's number 1. Right? Poland's current number 1 is Szczesny. Who plays for Juventus and probably earns $150,000 a week. And yet Boruc is a better goalkeeper than Szczesny. That's who we had. That's how simple it is. Do you know what I mean?
He was one of the top 5 goalkeepers in the world at one point, I'd say. He was up there.
I agree, because he was doing it against the best.
Championship where he was amazing. He was amazing in that thing. We're talking about him as world class. He was brilliant in it.
He was unbelievable. As I say, kind of, I don't actually slipped the back door, but that was the same summer when obviously Lennon took over full time. We sold Aid McGeady for big bucks, but in my head, I had it that Boruc went for a good few million, but no, it was about 1.5 million we sold for Fiorentina. Since then he went to Southampton, where funny enough, he would be displaced from the number 1 spot by Fraser Forster a few years later. Doing the studying for this, I was amazed how many sort of full circle moments, sliding door moments I came to where Joe Hart is involved in this story. Fraser Forster and Boruc crossing over each other a few times along the way. Even I say like Craig Gordon and stuff like that. So there's also all these names that all just kind of, doing a wee merry dance with each other over the next few years, and they'll somehow end up with us and end up at the same clubs with each other and replacing one another. It's so weird when you look at this wee collection of goalkeepers. But he does go to Southampton. Fraser Forster would oust him there. He would go to Bournemouth before ending his career at Legia Warsaw. And of course, he finished his career at Legia playing a friendly against us at the start of just this season, where he came on at he started the game and then hilariously got subbed on for literally the last 5 seconds of the game. He took that long to come on the park. He literally got on and the ref blew for full time. And I was like, remember the odds formed a guard of honour for him to come back on. And I thought, well, we've got a couple of minutes here. Didn't even get a chance to do that. He had to go to the goal mouth and it was like full time. So that was a bit of a waste.
That ref
wasn't
got
it?
sacked the next day, didn't he?
He definitely did.
You're
He
getting the sack,
definitely did.
Read the fucking script,
Aye.
mate. Come on to fuck.
But obviously, Boruc has since obviously hung up his gloves. But at his time at Celtic, he won 3 Scottish Premier League titles, 1 Scottish Cup, and 2 Scottish League Cups. And we also need to take this into consideration when we're going to be comparing the two. He played against a pre-liquidated Rangers side, which arguably was a stronger Rangers side than some of the ones Forster had to play. Or in some cases, Forster didn't have to play because they were sent packing. So that has to be taken into consideration as well. When we're doing it side by side here, because they had both goalkeepers played 2 very different eras of our enemy across the city. But yeah, that is Artur Boruc, like some of the highlights, some of the moments for his career. So yeah, we will do the musical break in a couple of moments, guys, and when we come back, we'll be talking about Big Fraz and looking at his multiple times at Celtic, because he's had a couple of spells with us. So yeah, we'll be doing that when we come back from the music. But any final words you want to say on Boruc? Or
I think you need to look it back as well, and always try and compare it with the present time the best you possibly can. I think Liam's spot on. You look at that Euros 2008. I remember the flat I was living in at the time. It was fucking awesome for Poland, right? Now when I'm thinking about it, I think that's until Juranovic, the biggest impact we've had a player making at the Euros in that period, or an international tournament in that period. And we're getting excited about 25 million fees and all that for Juranovic. Again, does this lead to you to a point where just because it maybe fell off, and we've explained many reasons for that for Boruc, had we sold at peak value time, which is a current debate as well with regards to the likes of Giakoumakis and things, we could be talking about a goalkeeper here we sold for 10 to 15 million pounds to Bayern Munich, not the guy that went out the back door to Fiorentina. So I think with the context and the fact he's done it in an international tournament, didn't he write Artur Boruc winning this poll? That's what I would say. Don't write him off.
I know we're obviously talking about their current time at Celtic, but you got to look at, when he left and went kind of out the back door of Fiorentina, I would pretty much say I thought his career was done. I didn't think that we were going to see much more of him. And then he comes to the Premier League and he has a pretty decent, he did pretty well while he was in the Premier League for, was it Bournemouth?
Southampton and Bournemouth. He played for both of them in the Premier League.
Yeah. But, you know what I mean? And that's...
Was he not Bournemouth number one? Number one at 38, David. I think he was Bournemouth number one.
Speaks volumes. He got his career back on track, and obviously he got back to a better fitness level, a better physical shape. Yeah, a few more years on him. You just wonder if he hadn't had that wee dip in his personal life and his personal choices, and who knows where he could have ended up if he hadn't. It's or how much we might have sold him for, like you say.
I just read that, though, and that's another link. Sorry, Liam. Yeah,
another one. You're right. Another link again by Eddie Howe. Very high praise for Boruc as well. But he's even late on in his career, he was still a number 1 goalkeeper in the English Premier League, the best league in the world. So he was still doing it late on. Now you look at, we're going to talk about soon, who is in a Premier League team just now, hasn't played a single minute this season. So we'll obviously be looking at that when we come back.
That was the comparison I was going to make as well.
Yeah.
I don't know what you were going to say, Liam, because I think when you try to come in, it stays silent at first. What were you saying, pal?
I know sometimes there's a lag in here, so forgive me for that.
Aye.
So I think the madness, the madness that he had, that spark that made him a really good, brave goalie, that was good for us, that worked with our crowd. I think that's what brought him to us as well. I think other clubs were a bit scared of his bad boy reputation. I think Strachan probably had a really good handle on him, and that was it somehow, And so I think that he would have been well over a price tag if he was like a normal, sensible Fraser Forster type. So if you give Boruc, maybe this is lead in for the next bit, if you give Boruc Forster's personality, is that the super keeper?
Brilliant point. That is a brilliant point.
So, if you were to transfer that would be the ultimate goalkeeper, wouldn't it?
Would be. It would be. I'm really intrigued to see the outcome of this, because I'm going to say, before we started this episode, I had an idea. I was pretty cut and dry who I was going to pick, but after that first hour, I'm now second guessing myself. So we'll see what comes at the second one. We'll see what comes at, because a lot of great points here. A lot of good ones.
Forster's 33 right now, not
Mhm.
playing a minute in the Premier League. Boruc was 38, playing every minute. Under, by the way.
Aye.
And by the way, football's changed by this point. This is now an Eddie Howe Bournemouth,
Yep.
who we know are total football and all that carry on. And yet, that was his boy in goals. So he must have been adapting as well and doing a wee bit of work with his feet too. Because you wouldn't be in an Eddie Howe team if you can't. Simple as that. And to be doing that at 38 years old with a recently promoted side in the best league in the world and all that nonsense. You know, Fraser Forster's proven how difficult it is to cut it in that league at his peak years.
Yeah.
His fucking peak years. So there's another element to the debate. You know, where was Boruc in his peak years? He was at Celtic and Fiorentina.
Yeah.
Forster in his peak years was on Southampton's bench.
Boruc was at Bournemouth while Forster was playing for Southampton. You know, both goalkeepers that were obviously former Celtic goalkeepers are playing their trade at the exact same time. Both first team football, I imagine. I'm sure Forster would have been the number one at Southampton at the time. While Boruc was number one for Bournemouth. And I don't know, when you're watching them both at that time, who are you picking in goals for your team then? Probably maybe still Boruc.
It's close.
It's close, by the way.
Yeah.
It's going to be
Because
really close.
I tell you what,
Love to see the stats. I'd love to see if we get the stats of their season where they were both playing at the Premier League at the same time. Who was having the better season?
So, you have both made great points, by the way, David and Liam, because Liam talks about his body changing slightly, and it did a wee bit. He was a bit more bloated in that final season at Celtic. But what David's saying is, you're right. He suddenly came back to the UK, if you like. He was, because he didn't let's be honest, we didn't have Golazio anymore.
Came back for Italy though, Russell. We've got to remember he's come back for Italy. Yeah. Look at Lukaku.
Chiseled.
Look at Lukaku when he from Man United to Inter, and he come back. He was like a different, because the diet was clearly better, the lifestyle's better, you know. So he's went away to Florentina and almost reinvented himself.
Yeah.
In this more Italian style mold, and he's come back and come back a new man and had that longevity. And Lukaku's a perfect example of how of what's happened. I remember an interview of what's the difference between Lukaku at Man United and Chelsea and what we've seen at Inter Milan. Diet. The first thing, he got a diet coach. They were like, your diet is shocking, your lifestyle is shocking. You need to start living your life like an Italian. Yeah. And what a difference it made to his career. And now he's kind of reverted back to being back in the Premiership. Whereas Boruc just went out there, lived that lifestyle for a few years to come back a completely different man and had that longevity for his career. And it worked wonders.
Reinvented himself, which is tough. You know, that's tough.
Saying there, if we had a sports science team back in Strachan's day, maybe we could, it wouldn't have to go early. You know, it's all about investing in your club. You know, and I remember going to a seminar in Canada once, and there was a guy talking about football, and he was saying the difference between Scottish football. This is in the 90s. And he was saying there's a diet. It's a diet and conditioning. And this was the guy from Scotland that had been in world courses and that. And he was saying right there, he says, there's no other country that behaves like that. You're still eating, you know, high protein, like steaks and all that before games. And, you know, and he says, until we tackle that, we'll be years and years behind. And you're still seeing the effects of that. I remember, what was Lennon's comment when Rodgers left? He didn't know what half the equipment was for. What did they do with all this?
They're not Liam as well. One of the reasons for the slight lack of respect, well, I say slight, the obvious lack of respect Ronnie Dyler was getting was because he was bringing in methods that they were using at part-time clubs in fucking Norway. And he could not believe Celtic's they're still having square sausage rolls and that before training. He's like, yous have got to be taking the fucking piss. And yous are annoyed at me. Big Commons is like, you know what I mean? He'd be fucking good at the local, you know, being the local Santa Claus, that cunt. You know what I mean? He's fucking, you know, I'm like that. Commons, professional football. You've got the hump because he is getting you into a regime you don't want to do, right? But he has been there in Norway in a part-time environment and came to Celtic, as Liam says, comes to investing in the club. This should be basic. A guy from a part-time team in Norway is coming to Celtic and a bit baffled at our dietary sort of supplements for our footballs. Now, you tell me how that works, because it doesn't. And you know, Boruc in that sort of environment, whether he would have liked it or not, it's a different debate, because he wouldn't have. But quite clearly, eventually, once the penny dropped, It's undeniable. By the time, in fact, he retired, he looked more in shape than what he did that last season at Celtic. So fair play.
Aye,
Boys,
he did indeed.
listen, the fact that our WhatsApp is all about deep fried rolls and pies and all that is a testament to the Scottish diet.
Yeah, that's true. That is a true thing that is getting discussed at the moment. Yep.
It's a good point. Jenk Boruc had a pie in a roll. Jenky did.
Oh, they've had a deep fried Mars bar, that's for sure.
How was that?
Aye.
Oh, it was cracking me. Oh,
Honestly.
I can't imagine that being good at all. I can't.
Oh, it was honestly, mate. It's unbelievable. I was Andy gets on it tonight. Mrs. stayed at her mum's night. I'm going to get myself a takeaway. Not a chippy for years, man. Get on that. Just eat this other delivery. Aye, honestly, man. I just because Lucy's been a vegetarian now. It's never been an option. We're always Chinese and anyway. Chippy, get on the Just Eat app. There's other delivery services available. And I know a guy has a takeaway.
Unless they want to sponsor us.
Yeah.
Aye. Speak to Connor Carr, he's dealing with all those kind of stuff for us. I see battered chocolate and I'm like, well, that could be anything. Is that a Mars bar? Is that like a caramel? Is that what is it? So it happened to be a classic. It was the Mars bar, and that brought back some. I mean, I could feel my heart slowing down with every chew, but it was worth it.
It makes me feel full, even the thought of it.
Like, just try it, mate. So good.
But I think one bite and I'd be like, it was nice, but I'm done. Do you know what I mean?
You can just pass it around like a joint. We'll just all have one bite. Like
a two-toed pass.
Just lying back like,
oh my God. Well, on that bombshell deal, viewers, we will do the musical interlude and when we come back, we'll be talking about Fraser Forster and probably more deep fried food. I'm sure will get mentioned at some point, but we'll be back in a couple of moments.
Comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.
Yes, and we're back, dear viewers. So yeah, let's get on with it. Fraser Forster now is up for his judgment. I know the judge isn't on tonight, but it's that time. I know
the judge is always watching, mate. He's always
the judge has been in the comments.
There.
He's already made his decision. He's already decided that Fraser Forster's the best keeper. He's already
lurking a bit somewhere.
Mark's already made his opinion. I can't imagine
Mark's
that.
opinion,
No way. He usually sits in the fence and then bombs it later. No fucking wow.
Aye, the judge has spoken. He's already said Fraser Forster his favourite keeper out of the two. But yeah, let's get on to it then. So Fraser Forster, so he joined. He's had a few spells at Celtic, if you want to call loan spells being different from full time. 50-50.
Sorry, I know you were keeping it to the end, Phil, but I've got to bring that up.
It's all right. I mean, I know that nobody's winning at the moment, so we'll see how it goes in an hour's time.
That's
might go to penalties. It might end up going to penalties.
Could. Well, we know Boruc hits a good penalty, though. We know Boruc hits a good one, so I don't know what Forster's like hitting a penalty. But let's concentrate on his first time he joined us then. And Russell, I know this is a little, this transfer window is one that you always reminisce very fondly about, because it's that sort of, it's a Neil Lennon first full season, and he made a few moves for some interesting players that window. He made a move for Sol Campbell, which didn't come off. There was a very well-known story that Jimmy Bullard was in the door and was actually negotiating with the club till Jimmy Bullard's dad basically was like, no, don't sign for them. It's his dad that scuppered it. But do you remember who the goalkeeper was that we made a move for that summer before Fraser Forster?
Calamity James.
Yeah. Imagine if we end up with him.
40 years old.
Calamity, exactly.
But he just reclaimed the number 1 spot at the 2010 World Cup after Robert Green had a howler in the first game.
He did indeed.
Imagine, I don't know many goalkeepers that reclaim their number 1 jersey based on form at a World Cup.
And being 40 years old at that point.
So, yes, that was who Lenny wanted to bring in. It turns out, though, Fraser Forster had just won Norwich's Player of the Year under a set. And Paul Lambert.
Yes, you mentioned this before. No, you froze there, but I knew you were going to say it was Paul Lambert. You mentioned this before on one of the Bustalgias we did, maybe in the Lenny second season, where Paul Lambert was the one that tipped him off, maybe. Well, it probably did then, didn't he? Because obviously them being...
Oh, it was. I think they were. It was a pals act. I think Lambert went, look, we can't keep him. He's too good. So they won the League One title, and he went back to Newcastle, but he was Norwich's Player of the Year and then winning the League One title. And I think he said to Lenny, look, if you've got a chance of getting him, he's fucking magic. And of course, at the end of the day, never down talk how big Celtic are, you know? They're fucking playing in the Championship for fucking Norwich or playing for Celtic isn't a debate. I know he's obviously contracted to Newcastle, but he wasn't going to get in their team for, by the way, probably their own stupid fault, because I think he would have done well for them. It's amazing the connections you still get. It's amazing, apart from my internet connection, but it's amazing the connections you get with fucking former Celts hooking up together. Do you know what I mean? And Lambert definitely being the reference point. Do you know what I mean? For a Fraser Forster deal, 100%.
Was it Tim Krul that was keeping him out of the Newcastle sticks at the time?
Do you know what I mean? A former Falkirk keeper.
2010-11.
I'm sure it was Tim Krul that was keeping him out of that squad.
Could have been about there. It seems feasible. Because
was it true that he'd only been playing football for a couple of years, right? Fraser Forster. He was a rugby player that converted to football later. So he'd only been playing goalie. I always remember that when he came to us. That's why I think Stevie Woods was so important, because he was still very, very raw, despite having the knowledge and that. But
was there not university degrees in that as well? I'm sure I was reading he was like I don't know if it was a doctor level, but he was definitely quite high up in the uni game, and I'm sure his dad wanted to make sure he had an education. I remember reading it. I don't know why it sticks in my head. Very similar to Stuart Armstrong sort of idea.
He's a monster.
I'm sure. Look at I'm sure. I'll look that right now.
I don't know,
he's waiting to research it. That's why he's giving it back. He's on his phone looking it up the new.
I'm not convinced, man. I'm no offense, David, but I'm not convinced that Fraser Forster was nearly at doctor level, let alone even a fucking degree.
We'll find it. David's going to go and have a wheel. He's taking it to VAR right now. But just in the meantime, while he's doing that, obviously, Forster had a first season on loan with us and returned to Newcastle that summer. Just missed out in the Scottish Premiership after the infamous Inverness game with a couple of games to go. Did win the Scottish Cup. But do you remember, and this ties into what you just said there, Russell, about Newcastle's own stupidity. Alan Pardew, who was the Newcastle manager at the time, when we went back in for him for the second season to take him on loan again, he wasn't too keen about sending him back to Scottish football. Pardew's comments, in fact, were, I think Fraser is coming back to a completely different level of football. I will tell you that now. We've watched that division and watched them all year. We have been disappointed with the quality of the games in Scotland, other than the occasional game against Rangers, and even those had been poor at times. But you say he's saying that, but then he brings Forster back and wasn't going to play him anyway. So, I don't know, bit of cheek there from Pardew.
You see Alan Wood's comment? I think, did he know marry her? I think that was his wife, future wife that went on here.
I think that's what David's getting his wires crossed. I don't remember anything about Forster having a degree. But see on the Pardew thing, Liam, that sort of ignorance from an absolute journeyman like Alan Pardew. Nobody cares, mate. Nobody cares, mate. Let's just get that right out there, Alan Pardew. Your opinion on Celtic and the level of football we know we play at and the level of pressure we do and all that. Not that he wants to bring all that into the equation because, of course, he would lose the argument. But,
he's taken a few pops at us. He's taken a few pops at us over the years as well. It's like some Tim pumped his blood or something like that, you know.
A fucking what? A Charlton legend having a pop at Celtic players. You are living in cuckoo land, mate. Fucking cuckoo land. He's a smarmy little bastard. Anyway, Pardew, do you know what I mean?
I say an absolute journeyman. One of these guys in the little circle of the jobs for the boys down in England that just seems to rotate around and find himself in a job. Like, for instance, Mark Hughes being one of those guys. Sam Allardyce. There's another one. Tony Pulis. Alan Pardew. They're all in this wee group that just kind of rotate around and always get a job. So they're always in that wee collection. But
anyway, I want to know the VR check.
Yeah, come on, David. Let's hear it.
In 2017, Fraser Forster enrolled in an open university for business management degree.
7 years later.
Maybe I got my wires crossed. Here, what I said was, I don't think it was quite going for a doctorate, is what I said.
Oh, right.
Studied psychology at the University of Strathclyde.
But despite despite Alan Pardew's protest, though, guys, we did get him back on loan for the 2011-12 season, where he did end up winning the Scottish Premiership, but we, of course, stupidly missed out on both cups that season for different reasons. But in the summer of 2012, we did make the move permanent, £2 million from Newcastle, and he would go on to have a pretty good couple of years after, especially in Europe, which we'll get on to very soon. But that wasn't the end of Fraser Forster at Celtic, because in 2019, when Neil Lennon was back full-time, he went back to the well that he knows, and he got Fraser Forster back on loan again for Southampton, which again we'll touch on very soon as to why that happened. But yeah, things hadn't quite worked out for Forster over the years, and he found himself very much frozen out. Came back to Celtic in 2019-20 season on loan, and as we will touch on later, there's a specific game that came along that is well known as the Fraser Forster game. The League Cup final against Rangers, which, yeah, I'm sure we'll be waxing lyrical about. But yeah, he's had multiple spells at Celtic. Did get a League Cup winners medal. Did get a league winners medal that season, even though that was the season that was curtailed by the coronavirus pandemic breaking out. But yeah, we were awarded the title in March, I believe, when it all kicked off then. It was a couple of months after, but the season stopped in March. I think it was like May. It was finally decided we're just going to, we're going to put it to a vote. Obviously, the vote was decided, and Celtic got the title. So you got a winners medal there. But let's go through Forster's highlights and his moments and that. And one of the things,
see, just before we do that, just on the fact that people don't like this argument right now still because it doesn't suit the narrative. Neil Lennon had an eye for a goalkeeper, didn't he?
He did.
Neil Lennon
had an eye for a few players.
Oh, I know. I know. Oh, I know. But because we were saying about maybe it was a blind spot for O'Neill, and maybe maybe there was other times as well. Brendan Rodgers, Doris De Vries. I mean, fuck me. Imagine if Neil
Cracking player, great character.
Yeah.
Take that to VAR as well, David.
Cracking player.
But I think you look at Lenny, presence of mind straight away. What did he identify? Second time I'm talking about the 2019 one. I tell you what, this team might be invincibles a couple of years ago, and they might be, they're all singing, all dancing, treble machine. They need another goalie. And he identified Craig Gordon as a weak spot where no one else could see it.
Yeah.
No one else was seeing it, really. I know he got a wee bit of jip at times, Craig Gordon, but let's be honest. It wasn't as obvious as what Lenny clearly thought it was to him. And he went, no, fuck that. Craig Gordon must have been like, wait the fucking hell, I'm the media's darling here. Do you know what I mean? And no, that's a position that needs sorted. And it was Fraser. And again, by the way, not bad for a silly old Alki, silly old Bam. If he could convince a Fraser Forster to leave the EPL lights and come back to Celtic for a second time, that tells you the regard that Fraser Forster holds him in.
Well, I'm just going to, there's a name coming up in the comments right now, and I'm going to defend Lenny on this one because obviously people are saying, I for a keeper, Barkas. If I remember correctly, the chain of events where we wanted to get Forster back full time and he shut us down, I don't think Barkas was, he definitely wasn't Lenny's first choice. He wanted Forster back. I think that was identified by our scouts. But I don't think Lenny identified Barkas. As you said earlier on,
Forster is a Lenny production.
Yeah.
That's
recommended by Paul Lambert many years before with that connection.
No, it doesn't suit anyone's agenda, the new. It doesn't suit anyone to give Lennon any credit right now. History will be kind to this guy. Just don't believe the naysayers right now, but whereas that season was a fucking disaster.
There's another cracking goalkeeper that he had at one point is that team in Cyprus. That was outstanding performance against Manchester United, that boy.
He nearly got the 0-0 draw.
And he wasn't even his first choice goalkeeper. I mean, he played him. He must have seen someone in training, he's definitely got an eye for keeper. And I've always said that Lenny's well, he's definitely got an eye for a centre midfielder because there's one point at Celtic, and I think it's because he played centre midfield. But there was one stage in the Celtic team we had Brown, Wanyama, Kyle, Ledley, and Ki Sung Young were our 5 centre midfield choices at one point in the second season. That was wild.
Yeah, he could definitely identify a centre mid, no doubt about it. That was a strong point for him. But yeah, goalkeeper, I'd say Forster, he knew what he was getting with Forster. I think Barkas was the case of, well, Forster knocked us back, we needed a goalkeeper, and the scouts or whatever, or if it was who was the one that worked under Brendan Rodgers? Did he stay on for another season under Lenny, the Congleton? Did he stay on when Lenny was still manager?
And then he went to
I think there's a lot to come out on that, Liam, I think, because we also need to remember, whilst obviously at the end of the day it's ultimately Lennon's responsibility, if you've signed a contract with Celtic and you're not allowed your own management team, you're not allowed your own any backroom staff at all of your choosing, then don't sign the deal.
That makes sense then. That backs up to the Congleton thing.
Ange came by himself as well, though. The backroom staff.
Well, I get that. And I have told you before, though, Liam, I think Ange liked that vibe. I think he likes having the autonomy. Whereas I think Lennon probably does need someone to go, rein it in a bit, Lenny, rather than having Celtic yes men beside him. Do you know what I mean?
Aye. What's amazing, I mean, Lenny was given Gavin Strachan as well. Lenny was giving him right. He showed up out the blue. It's like, here, you're getting him. And that was always...
It's undermining someone, I think. It's undermining. It's undermining. It's undermining.
It's part of the... It's just loosening the foundation and framework, even just the elements of trust that you have between, the board. So I'm starting to revise a lot of my opinion in Neil Lennon now with a bit of time and a wee bit of distance since that happened as well. You can see how that could start to sort of unravel him on that wee bit.
Distance makes the heart grow fonder, as they say, Liam.
And selective memory right now suits a lot of people. Selective memory. And the reason, I know Chris is saying, you can't, blame scouts for bad signings, but praise Lenny for the good signings. That's not what we've done. We've talked about one example, one position, and we've told you our thinking behind it, Chris. You've got to be fair, big boy. We're not saying there hasn't been, let's say bowling goalie, for example. I don't think that was a Neil Lennon production. Do you know what I mean? I don't. But again, does he get the final say? Yes. Does Barkas' CV, did he get some sort of say on it? Probably. Is he identified? No. We know he identified Forster because we know that went to the last minute before Forster, kind of changed his mind. That's irrefutable. So
exactly. He focused mainly on Lennon's first, like, when he got that, that you sold McGiddy for the 9 million. He had a bit of a wee war chest there to rebuild a team in his image, and he goes out and gets Gary Hooper, Ki Sung Young, Wanyama. I know Virgil van Dijk and all that came a little bit later, but your Fraser Fosters, your Adam Matthews, your Joe Ledley's, how many of them were Lennon productions? I would like to say most of them probably were.
Yeah, I would agree.
If not all of them.
And interestingly, then I think Neil Lennon. By the way, you could look at the bold and say, why were you giving a rookie manager such autonomy? As I keep saying, fucking another word to throw in the Boise bank. But the autonomy Neil Lennon as a rookie manager was given in his first summer was actually quite astonishing.
It is when you think about
it. It mirrors what Ange got to do, and guess what? Both of them fucking seem to understand what a good footballer is and the right fit for Celtic. Both of them do.
It's amazing what can happen when you allow a manager to go and buy the players that he wants for his vision. Like, you can have a vision of what you want to do, but if you're getting told, no, you're not getting that guy you want, we want you to go and sign ball and goalie, or we want you to go and sign this guy. Well, that's fine, but that's not really who I'm wanting, because I've got a vision in my mind that I need this player to do that role.
But there's the difficulty, David. He signed up for that deal, and that's where Lennon's bollocks got cut off. And he's got to ultimately hold that responsibility. Whilst I'm singing his praises in one stance, the bit that he let himself down was, have the courage of your convictions, Lenny. Don't just get offered the job because you want to watch. Get offered the job, then get it on your terms.
If you're getting offered a job in the showers, that almost comes across as desperate. You go, well, if you obviously want me, if you've come in and speak to me immediately after I've just won you this trophy, right? Well, if you want me that badly, you're gonna have to let me have. Like, he surely should have seen that he had the ball was in his court to kind of be like, listen, well, that's fine. I will come back. I want to come back, but I'm getting to sign what I want on my terms. Yeah, I don't understand why.
I'm bringing Albi back or whatever he wants. To not be allowed in a
Neil Lennon, after he got offered that, he took 2 weeks to give us back his decision. Do you remember that?
Okay.
So he got offered the job in the show.
Yeah, that's right.
Right away. He went and he gave us 2 weeks' notice. I'll go think about it, and did come back.
So he did. Aye, that's right. That did happen.
That instantly puts the ball back in Lawwell's court.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you need to think about it. All right, okay. Well, we'll also think about it. Right, okay. Well, yeah, I'll take the job after 2 weeks thinking about it. Right. Well, things have changed, Lenny.
Yeah.
I just feel that Lennon tied one of his own arms behind his back by signing that deal. And now I bet he regrets it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. How it ended up.
He will look back at that and go, why the fuck? I knew deep down that wouldn't work for me. Do you know what I mean? But it's just because he loved Celtic, and obviously, it's where his career was. To get the Celtic again.
You don't blame him
on that trajectory. He's never going to say no. But I just feel, if you think you've got a sniff of the job, start being naughty and get your own terms. It's not even being naughty. Just being honest to yourself. Do you know? I'll be example. This is the honest truth, right? See, when I got the pub, I was 22, right? Multi-millionaire landlord, right? And I'm sitting in his office with my mate. Me and my mate are doing this, right? No money, no fuck all. And the third meeting, I'm haggling on everything, and I'm going, your targets don't work, mate. And I remember so well, my mate kicked me under the desk. I said, shut the fuck up. Anyway, I carried on the way I was, and we walked out, and he goes, I don't get you. Do you want to get this pub or not? Now I went, we already got the pub. The third meeting was to get terms. He went, you what? I went, Jinky waste time on 3 meetings. If he ain't giving you it, I went, the 2 meetings where he decided, the third meeting, I've just got what we fucking needed to make this thing work. And I know that's I'm not making it about fucking me. Do you know what I mean? I don't mean it like that. But even then, when I was the lucky one, shall we say at 22, to be getting the keys to a pub with no money, right? I still got it on my terms in the end, because there's got to be a common need here at some point where, why am I in consideration? You must be desperate too. And if you're desperate too, let's not just talk about my limitations. Let's talk about yours.
Yeah.
Aye. I think because it was the two of them bounced off to each other that way, Lyle and Lennon. It was like codependency. They need one for each other. We sort of see it Lawwell's makeup anyway. He needs a contrast. He needs an enemy. You know, that's why we have them back. You know.
No, totally. Well, Lennon obviously is synonymous with Fraser's time at Celtic, because the entire time that Fraser Forster was with Celtic, Neil Lennon was the common denominator because he was his manager every single time. And Liam, I'll cut you then on this one, because one thing that when I look back on the highlights of Fraser and stuff that he had, all the different amazing saves that he pulled off at Celtic, one thing that stood out, and it's quite ironic because penalties the other way, we've always had a sort of inconsistent sort of run of penalty takers. Juranovic seemed to be a good penalty taker for us recently. Now he's missed one. You know, we don't seem to have somebody that's always like nailed on. But one thing that we also never seem to have is a goalkeeper that you're really confident when a player steps up to take a penalty against us, he's going to save it. Fraser Forster had that aura about him. It's probably because he was 6'7", 6'8", so he filled the goal pretty well. Maybe he didn't do all the antics that Boruc did, putting them off. But I think if you're a player placing that ball down, Liam, on the spot, and you look up and you see this guy who could just put his hand up like that and touch the bar, no problem, because he doesn't need to jump up and down or anything to touch the bar. He could just do that and touch it because he's that tall. It must, if you're a striker, must put you off of it, because one of the penalty saves that always stands out in my mind, massive, important one. And we did this on one of the Bustalgia episodes we did the 2011-12 season, where we were 15 points behind Rangers at one point. There's a game against Hearts where Victor Wanyama scores really late on at Celtic Park, and Hearts got a late penalty in the game, and Fraser Forster saved that. And again, that was a crucial victory in that run, because it kept momentum going. It allowed us to close the gap on Rangers, so that by the time we played them on the 28th of December that year, we actually bypassed them after being 15 points behind. But his ratio of saving penalties was brilliant. And I mean, has Joe Hart even saved a penalty for Celtic? And Craig Gordon, I can remember only saving one, which was against Hapoel Beersheva. So goalkeepers in recent years haven't had a good record of saving penalties, but Big Forster had that superb record, didn't he, Liam?
I think his record was absolutely brilliant, but I think it was also his goalie style as well. I don't remember him ever being overly proficient in the air, coming out snatching crosses. In fact, it was opposite. But see that big guy, the size he is. See the way that he could get down with lateral movement, going across the goal. I was amazed at. I mean, I always remember that goal he saved against Lazio. Remember the Lazio one? It was like
that was wild.
We were in their stadium. And I think he did two saves like that, both against Lazio. It was unbelievable. But it wasn't flying through the air saves. It was all getting hand down to the low corner. And I think he's the best we've ever had at moving himself across that goal. Joe Hart's close, but I don't think he's nearly as good as Fraser Forster.
I don't think it is close. I think there's a big difference between Joe Hart and Fraser Forster. I think Forster's but I think far superior.
Aye, in that sense, why? You see, Joe Hart
put it this way: Fraser Forster got into that England squad, which Joe Hart was winning Golden Gloves at the time when he was playing for Celtic.
But he should have started ahead of him at that World Cup, mate.
There was chat. Yep, there was chat. Even English fans were saying, "I want to see this boy ahead of Joe Hart," and that's when he was playing for us at Celtic, and Joe Hart still at Man City at the time.
There we go. Courtois, there's a great comparison. Courtois got a similar build to Fraser Forster as well.
Just a presence about, he's so big. But Liam, what you're saying as well, like how massive the guy is, but yet so agile. So agile.
Well, did you watch the clips that Phil sent?
Oh, David was a last-minute addition to this show. He decided to come on late.
It's very interesting, David, because it's actually funny how much slower Forster is in his second spell than his first spell, right? Even that League Cup final, if you compare it to the Barcelona, when he was the Grand Wall, compare his, don't get me wrong, both incredible performances. But actually, if you watch how he moves about, those Rangers saves are unreal because his anticipation is now through the roof. But he moves far slower. I think
his better positional sense is better. His positional sense is better.
David. He said he's reading it. He's reading it better. But his body's slowing down slightly, right? But see, the other thing that he's got really, really going for him. See, when he saves the ball, he doesn't save it and put it back into an area of madness. He gets the biggest fucking hands on. See, all his best saves are like these really strong. I'm trying to get my palm in there. It's a bit of an embarrassment to Fraser Forster the size of my hand, actually. But he gets the biggest, strongest palm on the ball, and they always seem to clear his area, as well as it being a world-class save.
And the microphone would always pick it up as well. It always hit
that's what makes his save so important. The funness in which he's actually getting the contact on the ball is so important because what you often find is rebounds. You look at a guy like Solskjaer, people in Inzaghi, they lived for it. Good safekeeper, but I'm already in there. I'm just thinking that in. Mm-hmm. Forster was not just saving them, but clearing his area at the same time with these because he seemed to have iron wrists. Do you know what I mean? Mm. That's a huge factor in why his saves are so important.
Aye, he's a goalie again for the big occasion like we talked about with Boruc, and that's why this is such a good comparison. That's what I think, because one of the things again, Russell, similar to Boruc, European nights. Well, I said earlier on about the Nakamura free kick that beat Man United. That doesn't happen if obviously Boruc doesn't save that penalty late on from Louis Saha. And funny enough, in a season where we also qualified again for the next round of the Champions League, we probably don't make the next round of the Champions League if this result doesn't go the way it does. Because everyone remembers in November 2012, they obviously beaten Barcelona 2-1. Massive win for the club. Still gets talked about to this day. Contributing massively is getting out of that group stage. Everyone remembers the Tony Watt goal. That'll live long in the memory. But the performance that Fraser Forster put in that night, he actually gets the assist for Tony Watt's goal, which sometimes goes forgotten. He punts up the park, it bounces over Xavi's head, and Tony Watt's in on goal and scores. But what I love as well is, again, the lasting image. For a quite interesting contrast, I said earlier on there was a lasting image of Artur Boruc with his hand round Davy Weir's neck, like strangling him after a game. But in contrast to that, the total opposite, I've got a lasting image of Fraser Forster when he's walking off the park and Neil Lennon's like grabbing him, but he's not like hugging him, like he's like grabbing the front of his shirt like pure passionately, like fucking yes, big man. Because it's just such a great moment. But yeah, that night against Barcelona, even in the highlights package I said over here, there's even saves from the game in the new camp that we only lost narrowly 2-1 by a last minute goal. Mm-hmm. He pulled off some blind saves, but obviously the one at Celtic Park is the one that everybody remembers that night.
The Messi quote in your highlights reel, Phil.
What's that?
The Messi quote that's in the highlights reel.
Best goalkeeping performance he's ever seen. Yep.
I'm not the biggest fan of the lip service about, I love the atmosphere. But what I will do is take Lionel Messi's opinion on football stuff. Mm-hmm. I won't, I can't be asked with, the colour and all that. It was amazing. Oh, fuck off. I'm not interested in that shite. But see, when he wants to talk football, I'll listen to Leo Messi. And if he says the goalkeeper in Glasgow is the best goalkeeper performance he'd ever seen. Mm-hmm. I think we've got to give that a wee bit of the credit it deserves. That to me means so much more for Leo Messi than fucking the lip service bullshit about Celtic Park. It doesn't do it for me, all that nonsense. I need to move away from that. But when the goalkeeper's getting singled out for praise like that, and this is him retrospectively saying it, guys, not post-match. He was saying it like a couple of years down the line. There was a game in Glasgow against Celtic. He couldn't even remember. He doesn't even mention Forster's name. Yeah. But he's just going, that was the best goalie performance I've ever seen. I like that. That works for me.
Aye, that goes a lot. That's a lot better than the powder puff stuff of, yes, we really love the atmosphere as they go and beat us 3-0 and stuff like that, But funny enough, seeing that highlights package, I don't know if you saw this one, but see the year later when we played Barca again, I know they beat us 1-0 that night. There's an amazing save, and I totally forgot about this till I watched it, from Neymar. And it's a rebound.
It's a joke.
Up and saved the rebound was
a joke. It's a joke.
Oh my god. I totally forgot about it completely because we lost that game. You don't remember these things, but watching it back, and I think Alexis Sanchez had a chance in that one as well. And again, he just denies him brilliantly. You're just like, this guy, you shall not pass Barcelona. You're not getting a goal here. He was so determined against them. But again, it was a big occasion. Maybe similar to Boruc, where he just thrived on that big game atmosphere, knowing how important this is. He was just in another world, wasn't he, Liam, on day nights, the performances in the Barcelona game. You're just not getting a goal tonight, Barca. It was a shame that Messi did get a goal in stoppage time. It was a wee bit like, he deserved a clean sheet there. But it'll live on forever, that one, won't it, Liam?
Aye. So, Phil, here's a question maybe Russell or David knows well. Was Stevie Woods with Boruc and Fraser Forster? Because I think Stevie Woods is one of the big since he came back to start working with our goalkeeping team again to get his confidence and all that back. And and I think that was the same with what do you call him, the Hearts goalie?
Craig Gordon.
Aye. Well, I would wonder if that's a big part of these two goalies' success as well with Stevie Woods. I mean, he seemed like and I think Joe Hart mentioned it when he came as well, that he had spoke to Fraser Forster about working with Stevie Woods because I think he needed to get his career back on track as well. And maybe Stevie Woods is like the goalie whisperer. We should
He's been the goalkeeper coach. He's definitely been on the backroom staff for the whole time that I've been a season ticket holder, and I was the third Strachan season, whether he came in midway through Strachan's time, but he was definitely there where Boruc was there then, because Boruc was the goalkeeper when Strachan was the manager. So he's definitely been there from the third season of Strachan.
He isn't a jobs for the boys. Let's get that right. That's not a jobs for the boys. That's someone who's got the respect. That's someone who's got the respect from the managers that have been in situ in that time.
Because he's been there through Strachan, Mowbray, Lennon, Dyler, Rogers, and then Lennon again, and he's still there now under Ange. So he stood the test of time. So these coaches and managers coming in see something in him. They see how good he is. That speaks volumes, really. They don't want to bring in their own guy. They see how good he is. And they look at the track record. You're right about the Craig Gordon thing. Craig Gordon's career was going nowhere after the injuries. And when we signed Craig Gordon, we were like, this is a big risk. But Craig Gordon was good, man. He really did well for us. I know. I think there's been a lot of harsh criticism of Gordon in the years since he's left. And
of course there has.
It's probably because he now plays for Hearts and he's a bit of an arse. But he's employed by another team. That's his job, to play for another team now. But I thought he was good. But again, a lot was down to Stevie Woods getting him back to that level again. Massive play.
Do you think he was a? Do you think he was a factor in him coming back that second time? Then,
yes.
That it was maybe as much Stevie Woods as it was Neil Lennon.
Yes,
that's a good shout. Aye,
that's by the way,
big time. And it makes that love again.
Well, when you look at Barkas now, you can tell it looks like Barkas is a signing that came from somewhere else. That doesn't seem like it had a Stevie Woods stamp of approval on it or anything like that, because he doesn't have the same characteristics as the other goalkeepers that he was able to make successful or help in their career. And so it's and that's, I think, why Joe Hart he fits back into that mold. And so that's okay. We've got another Stevie Wood keeper back, and we get success.
I don't think Joe Hart's good enough.
He's not. I don't put him on the level with Boruc and Forster. He's a good keeper, but you can see that he's now at a level where we're getting to the point where we need to start thinking. We need to start thinking about.
Joe Hart's a funny one. I never really rated him even at Man City. Like, I never used to like Joe Hart at all, and it wasn't just because of his, all the off-field stuff and all the things to the camera. And that. I always just found it was a bit Hollywood Hart. It was like he would pull off these big Hollywood saves that he probably could have just picked up no bother. And when you had such a great defensive unit in front of you for all those years, but of course when he came to Celtic, I was quite happy to see him come to Celtic, because I thought maybe this is just what we need, somebody that's been around the block. I don't know if we'll get much more out of Joe Hart. Maybe this might even be his swan song. I don't know.
Mate. He's not.
Well, he's definitely not the future, no. But
I think that's one of those progressive signings, David. One of the ones that Andrew's got the windows. The two windows ahead. I bet the one's a goalkeeper.
Yeah,
I think so as well.
He was a means to an end, Joe Hart, because we needed somebody at that point in time.
Short term for a long term goal.
His presence alone and his experience and what he's done in the game was right for a young team to go, I've got a guy to look up to here. So that's what he's brought.
And he was available.
I think he's brought more though off the park, or not off the park, but in terms of ability, I think he's brought more to the table with the other stuff. I actually think,
a calm head at the back, but he likes to put those balls in the corner for stuff. But he does bring up, like you say, a guy with experience that the defenders can go, I've got a Golden Glove winner of the Premier League behind me. That there's a lot more confidence in stories.
Think his stories when they're, a training on a Tuesday afternoon, no game for 4 days. Do you know what I mean? What do you talk about? what do you talk about? And you just go, you're as a Croatian.
Monty.
You just go, but you can imagine the boys going, what was Aguero like? What was Aguero
Oh,
like? What was David Silva like? And him giving you all that insight and go, we're playing with a legend here. But I think that'll take you so far. But that possession, I think the two goalies we're discussing
certainly can be
are head and shoulders. See what I did there? Head and shoulders above.
Oh, God.
Oh.
That left me scratching my head at that one there.
Oh man, funny enough, Stubbsy's Horse was coming in with some good one-liners last night in the chat of a similar nature. There was one about we were talking about the striker situation, and he said Ivan Toney would have been somebody to take a gamble on. And of course, you know the headlines about Mr. Toney right now, then yeah, you know what's going on there. But yeah, we'll move on though with Forster, because talking about coming back to the second spell, as Liam said there, David, you know, when he came back, obviously he had some big moments in Europe again. For the first time ever, Celtic went and won on Italian soil, beating Lazio. But before we got the win away, we actually beat them, of course, at Celtic Park. And again, it's quite remarkable when I'm doing this, and you look at these big European games, these big moments, these games that we won, where obviously you've got to score the goals to win the game. But again, you can tie all of these big victories back to a moment where you're like, if that doesn't happen, you know, if that save doesn't happen, that famous victory never happened. Because after Christopher Julian scored an 88th minute winner, honestly, see the save that Forster made in stoppage time at the near post is up there with one of my favourite saves ever. I think the boy that scored the goal, Bazzari, hits it so clean on the volley as it drops him the edge of the box. And he just kind of puts a hand out like that and falls back and tips it up over the bar. But it's just a reflex, just like sticks a hand out.
But again, where does that ball go, Phil? Where does the ball go?
It goes up over the bar.
It's so deliberate.
Aye.
Everything he's doing, he's not just saving shots. This is what I keep saying, he saves. The reason they've got more depth to them is what he's doing with the ball is so deliberate as well as saving it.
Aye.
He always liked
to
punch, He always liked to punch a ball as well. I remember, Liam, when you were saying it, he was now one for coming out and catching the ball, but it's like he always just wanted to punch the ball so hard, like he was going to knock somebody's head clean off. It was like a big haymaker every time. I used to go, why are you not catching that? You're fucking massive, just catch it. But every time it was like, I wouldn't want to get in the way of one of the big fists, which might have been another reason he used to just punch the ball, just people would just clear out the way.
Aye.
But I do think with Forster, I think the saves that you see, that one you're talking about, Phil's a great example. It's not just a save. It's not just a save. He's also making sure it's not back in play.
Aye, puts it up over the bar. So does he? You know, there's no Pippo and Zaggy there to put it in the net. A poacher.
So important what he's doing with that ball. If you watch, honestly, that highlights reel, watching it kind of blew my mind away because I forgot about it. He's almost saving it for that part of your wrist.
Yep.
It's never fingertips. He saves it spin there, and that means you get a better connection on the ball, and it's pushed further out the goal area, or in that instance over the bar, but it's firmly over the bar. That's it. Reset. Get back in position.
Yep.
There's more intelligence to that than it looks. I was going to say the uneducated eye, but I mean I'm uneducated. But I think you could look at it and just go, oh, great save. But it's not just a great save. There's a lot more going on there with these saves. But you're right to point that one out, because that was an accumulation of saves that game in the heat of battle against your rivals, up against it. And then still to the last minute, see that drive?
Yeah.
That's the mentality, mate. That's the mentality.
Aye. And this was in his second spell, which we alluded to earlier on. When he came back for his second spell, he was a lot more, he could read it a lot better than,
I think he was helping the manager out. I think he was generally going, too many of these cunts don't realise what they've got here. Albeit he's a bit of a hypocrite. But anyway, that's fine. But I do think he was there going, whoa. I'm going to remind some of these wee upstarts. Do you know what I mean? This is a big deal. And he was again, we're talking about Joe Hart, right season, right time. Fraser Forster was big time, the right man for that season as well.
He was. Well,
so you said earlier about don't underestimate the power of Celtic. Remember, this is a guy that was, for some reason, couldn't get back in that Southampton team, and he was just sitting on the bench, and Celtic are wanting you back. Fuck, guy. I'm not going to sit on this bench here. I can go back and play for Glasgow Celtic. That's got to be, all these factors.
And then he backed himself again, basically. He thought he was going to now go back down to Southampton and be number one.
Yeah.
What I do find interesting, though, is he signed for Tottenham as a number 2.
Yep.
this
Yeah.
summer.
Antonio Conte, your man,
Could he have signed again for Celtic? He was available, a free transfer.
Well, remember earlier on I was talking about when I was doing all the putting everything together for this and all these like weird sliding door moments and all these weird similarities. Who was Tottenham's number 2 goalkeeper just a year before Fraser Forster? Joe Hart. Joe Hart was sitting in the same position. He's now our goalkeeper. When Fraser Forster got himself in the England squad on the bench, who was the number 1 keeper for England?
Yep.
It was Joe Hart. And said earlier on, Boruc left in the summer of 2010. Who replaced him at Celtic? Fraser Forster. Artur Boruc was the Southampton keeper 2014. Who came along in 2014 and replaced him? Fraser Forster. It's so weird. Remember I said about Alan Pardew and the whole jobs for the boys? Like, what's this? Jobs for goalies? It's just like a wee circle of goalkeepers that keep going round and crossing each other's path. What's going on?
Talk about the goalkeeper union. That's certainly
goalkeeper
one.
union. It really is a goalkeeper union. Mental. But that's what he's doing the Joe Hart role from a couple of years ago, where he's just sitting on the Tottenham bench behind Hugo Lloris. It's weird.
There was another player that was linked for Tottenham that I'm sure we tried to get while Lenny was in charge, and that was it Vern? Is that
Vern was like, Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers.
Aye, because he had him at Swansea. Swansea.
Yes.
And then he was number 2. He was at Spurs, yeah.
Here's my take. Ange, we all love him and all that. You've got to say that before you say anything that might criticise him. Ange couldn't have handled Fraser Forster coming back again, even if he is the right answer. Ange is too stubborn to have him. Accept it, guys. Fucking accept it, because he would go, that's a throwback to the past. See if Henrik Larsson was 33 now. He wouldn't sign Henrik Larsson at 33 on a free. He wouldn't sign Jordan Larsson. He wouldn't entertain it because it's too big for him. And just to be top dog. And I think he knows Fraser Forster is from a time that's been and gone that was successful, and he doesn't like that. Whether folk like it or not, he doesn't. Ange has got an ego. People need to accept that. I don't criticise him for it, by the way. Just being honest. He's a bit stubborn. He's got an ego. He has to be top dog.
He's definitely got an ego. Have you seen that? You seen the interview with McGowan when he talked about he had to sit beside him on the plane from Australia to? It was a 16-hour flight, and he didn't speak to him once. And apparently, Ange would do that deliberately just to get just because he enjoyed almost the intimidation factor he was getting off. Whether he found it funny or not, but that's an ego that's doing that, surely. But I mean, we all love him, but he does have an ego, and you know what? I want my managers to have an ego, a bit of character about them. You know,
don't let it get in the way of making good decisions, David.
Oh no, but
and if Fraser Forster was available in the summer, what I'm saying is, it's not hypothetical because he was available in the summer because he joined Tottenham as a number 2 at 32 years old, right? He was fucking available. We would never have asked the question under Ange. That's where it goes too far the other way. Yeah. In my opinion, that was a question to be asked. Fancy it, son.
Yeah, but what I'll say is, whether Fraser Forster, and obviously we know his goalkeeping ability. There's no question there. We've just spoken about it all night. Ange likes a goalkeeper with a ball at his feet. But I just
can't shite at that, mate.
I know he's shite. I know. But that's why Pep Guardiola obviously got rid of Joe Hart. But people were saying, why are you getting rid of a goalkeeper that was, Golden Glove winner, blah blah blah, because it didn't fit the mold of the team that he wanted, and so it's a difficult one.
But come on, Joe Hart's joined Celtic because of needs must situation as well. He's fucking number 3 at Tottenham by the time he joins us.
Joe Hart took a pay cut though. Fraser Forster got to take a 75k pay cut.
He's not got a team. He's not got a team in the summer, David.
But he had a team. He had an offer at Celtic. He chose not to go and sit on the bench at Spurs.
No, he didn't have an offer at Celtic. That's the whole argument. He didn't have an offer at Celtic. I'm saying Celtic should have made an offer. We're only talking about the summer just been, by the way. That's summer there. Sorry. It's my fault. I've not explained it properly. In the summer just there, in 2022, he's joined Spurs to be their official number 2, basically.
Yeah.
And I just think with that availability, surely put your pride to one side or your ego or whatever it is you hate about Celtic having had a history, Ange, without you. Who cares? He's 32 years old. He loves the club and he's available on a free. Pay him 30 grand a week and make him the keeper for the next 5 years. That's what I would have done. I think there's a compelling argument based on what we've just discussed for the last 40 minutes that Fraser Forster rocks it at Celtic for the next 5 years. And instead, he's sitting on a bench at Spurs, and we've got Joe Hart, who's not as good.
Hasn't played a single minute for Spurs as far as I'm aware.
Got that in my system, David.
I mean, this weekend when the English Premier League returns on Boxing Day, I think might be the first game he gets because Hugo Lloris, I would imagine, is still on some kind of break.
Is he not played in a cup game? Is Forster not played a cup game yet? I thought I seen him playing a cup game.
Maybe he has played in the old Carabao Cup. Maybe he has got a game there. One of the type of things. But one thing I was wanting to say about Fraser Forster, he did obviously set a record as well, the clean sheet record in 2014, if you remember this one. I was actually at the game when it happened. It was at Tynecastle. We beat Hearts 2-0. It was 1,155 minutes without conceding a goal. So it happened midway through the game. You had to get to Bobby Clark, Aberdeen goalkeeper from years ago, had held the record. So you had to get to 1,156 minutes. But I remember being at this game. We beat them 2-0 and Griffiths scored his first goal for the club. But see, about 3 minutes before he hit the time that he needed for the record, Effie Ambrose played a shocking back pass to him and Hearts nearly scored off it. It was one of those that would just be so typical of it to happen. It's the type of thing that just would happen, but no, he managed to save it, got the record. But ironically, the very next league game we played, we actually lost our first league game that season to Aberdeen. Johnny Hayes pinged one in the top corner. So in the end, the final total stood at 1,256 minutes, which accumulated to 13 games, or 13 and a bit games.
Astonishing. That's
a hell of a record. Regardless of, yes, there was no Rangers in the league and all that. At the end of the day, still got those people still going to be hitting shots at them, regardless of what team it is. That's a lot of games.
Rangers 4 times a season in the league, Phil.
Exactly.
I don't get that argument. I've never understood the Rangers winning part yet. So nothing counts then.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's what could win Forster the day here. See, when you look at that record, as well as the examples of the big games, Liam. Right, so the big games, he's got Barcelona's under his belt, the League Cup final, a trophy day. Let's be honest, that he's won his sell, and then you take into account the consistency to break a 40-year-old record. That's pretty. That's, do you know what I mean? That swings it again a wee bit, doesn't it?
It does.
Do you remember that Chad Dury incident in Europe, man? I know it's what a moment.
What my like smile. It was before Effie Ambrose as well.
Was that wee pass back? Was that a pass back? And it went right past him. And Foster's chasing after that ball. It's like the fucking Bernie Hill music was playing. It went on forever. I'm like, catch it. How slow is this guy? That wasn't the best first impressions for Fraser Forster, but
did you notice as well, Phil? See his sliding celebration.
Yes,
after the League Cup final.
Yep.
Mimicked what he did when we first won the league title.
Yes, so he did. He
did the same thing, and I think that was him going. Like there was a wee memory there. He did the exact same run, like charge the halfway line and slide. I thought it was a cool doff of the cap. Like, do you know what I mean? Even though it was 8 years ago, I remember it. I thought again. I know he gets hate. Like he departed Celtic. You know, all this bullshit. I mean, I think it was toxic at Celtic. I don't think people wanted to stay at Celtic. I think Eddie, Christie, Ayer all wanted out. Forster had the gift that he was only there on loan, so he could get out.
He could.
And I think he knew there's a shit show coming here. COVID stopped the season. This is going daft. What's this going to do for my career? Or I just go back to Southampton, 80 grand in a week.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I'm glad you brought up the cup final, because obviously that was like the sort of main event part of like Forster one, because he's in that unique position where he's a player that's got a game named after him, where somebody says the Fraser Forster game, the Fraser Forster Cup final. Every Celtic fan knows what one it is, Liam, because again, it's one of these ones. Christopher Julian scores the goal, but that cup, that doesn't happen if Fraser Forster doesn't put in the shift that he puts in. I went to many, obviously being a season ago right now, the Brendan Rodgers era and all those trophies and that was, I loved it as going to the games, winning trophy after trophy. In the end, I believe we won a stretch of 12 trophies in a row, but obviously 2 of them were won under COVID, where one, the Scottish Cup final against Hearts, we couldn't attend it. Another one was the league title that got awarded to us. But that League Cup one, the 10th one, and the 10th trophy in a row in that run, is still probably my favourite out of all of them because of the circumstances of the game. Being in the stadium that day was tense, to say the least. It was when Celtic did score their goal, it was like a bomb went off. The noise in Hampden was insane, but the whole game, you're just like, why is there not a couch for me to hide behind or something? I can't watch this. This is absolute torture. But Fraser Forster that day, I say, he's now got to the point where Liam, he's written into folklore forever because he literally has a game now named after him, the Fraser Forster Cup final. It was an amazing,
I remember all the
amazing
narrative around that game being about.
Yep.
Oh,
there you go.
So I'm just cutting in and out right now. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you now, mate.
You're a bit blurry, but I can hear you fine.
Aye, that's just me. I'm a blurry guy. I remember being about Morelos. That Morelos was going to. This was him going to score against Celtic because he'd never scored against us yet at that point. And so we're all talking about. He was in a rich vein of form, and I remember he just psyched him out. He was the Fluffalo. He was fluffing his chances. He was missing everything. Just like, Forster get that big and go in front of him. That he did intimidate them, and I think he intimidated the entire Rangers team that day. That's what I think. I mean, when's a goalie ever steal a game in a cup final?
Oh,
us, against us, we've seen it. Europe.
It got to the point where you were almost laughing at how many saves is this guy going to make? Like every shot he saved, you were started just laughing at it. I can't believe this is actually happening in front of me.
Me and Jonathan watched it together in the living room, right? And I remember, I had grip marks on my arm. He must have been the same because we weren't sitting down. We were just standing, watching the whole game. And I kept going, this eventually, your luck only goes so far. And after it, I always remember he was like, how the fuck? And I went, I'll be honest, not one bit of me thinks we didn't deserve that. I was there in the 90s as a kid when it's harder to take defeat, by the way, because you don't understand it all. And I look back at the highlights now and go, no wonder I felt fucking, what is this game called football? This is a nightmare. Do you know what I mean? And it was us absolutely battering those bastards. Do you know what I mean? Under Tommy Burns, for example. Do you know what I mean? And not getting the result. I went, that's called karma. Or if you want, even if not karma, just how football works. It goes in cycles at times. And this is our time. And it was our goalie. And he did. I think you're right, by the way, Liam. How often do you say a goalie's going to dictate? But I tell you what, see Morelos, see what you found out about him that day, and I stand back. He's never scored against Celtic with fans, by the way, unless I'm mistaken.
No, he's not. He's not.
Right? He is all skirt, no knickers.
Yep.
He's a shite bag. He's an absolute
So is Tavernier for not taking the penalty that day. He's the penalty taker, and he gave it to Morelos to let them get the goal.
I think he's bowed to Morelos' personal demands. That's not a captain. Secondly, you get Morelos, and he's got the halfway house hairdo. I mean, I'm not wanting to slag off folks' hair, but fuck me. You know what I mean? Like shaved one side, and he's doing it. But see if you watch it, because obviously you sent us the links, Phil. He's doing his best to play. I'm confident. He's chewing gum. He's probably not even got in his mouth. He's probably not even got chewing gum in his mouth.
He was proper chewing away.
Start that, and he's trying to look smug, and it's all bluff. All bluff. And I smell shite when I see it. Do you know what I mean? Not that I see shite that often unless I'm walking the dog. But then you get Morelos, and you go, he's a bluffer. He is an absolute charlatan. And see when it came to the crunch, he didn't have it. He didn't have it. And I think, I'll tell you this, see when a goalkeeper saves a penalty, always remember, they've got to go early.
Yeah.
They aren't reacting to a shot, let's be honest. See, Forster literally knew. That was the difference. He's not gambled. He's a simpleton, this wee idiot. I know where he's going. He's going across the body for the shot, because that's his technique's not very good. Morelos is incapable of opening his body and curling that in the far corner, if you like. You know what I mean? He's got to go near post, because that's how he'll get the better contact with the ball. Because he's not got great technique. Forster knew where he was going. It was a comfortable save.
It was.
Sorry, did we not go down to 10 men that game as well? Am I right? in
Jeremy
saying that?
Frimpong got sent off when he gave away the penalty.
Aye.
He gave away that penalty.
That was all my days. That was all
Do you
my days.
remember
All my
he
days.
walked up and
Aye.
Lennon kissed him.
Aye. Because Morelos was basically coming back for a tap-in, and he just basically wrapped his arms around him and tackled him to the ground. Aye.
Lennon kissed him. He came up, hugged him, and kissed him. Because, and again, you look at a Frimpong right now. Do you honestly think Neil Lennon's not had a good influence on his career? I do. Because I think he goes to a where's he? Leverkusen.
Leverkusen.
And I think he goes, this is an easy ride. You want to have him. Do you know what I mean? You want to have him fucking at you 24 hours a day. That's a nightmare. That's a tough school. And I think it sets you up to go into the powder puff over conditioned, over condensed, bullshit of professional European football in the big leagues these days. So we went down to 10 men. I think Monty said there as well when Eddie came on.
Yep.
Wow, that's when you realise how good a footballer is.
Connor Goldson cleaned them out a minute on the park, and we got the free kick that then led to the goal. Because Connor Goldson thought, I'm going to stick one on here, David. And it backfired on them because we got the free kick and scored from it. So,
but his display on one leg, he wasn't fit. And that again, I think you've got to have a manager in place who's convincing you. See, nowadays, when you're not fit, right, just sit up in the stands. But Lenny's going, would you give me 20 minutes? Will you give me 20 if we need you? If we need you, will you give me 20? He's convincing them to do that. You know what I mean?
Aye.
I'm not asking, I'm telling. You're giving me 20.
That he was brilliant. He was brilliant.
But, you're right. But as soon as he came on, Goldson went right through him. And I remember it was, I don't know if he got a yellow card for it or what, but you could tell we all knew that Eddie was fragile coming on, that part of his injury. And I would be surprised if that set him back quite a bit. Might have set him back in the mindset as well, too. It's like, oh, Christ, what sort of league am I playing in again? I'm coming back for injury and I've got fingers coming right through me and I'm getting absolutely no protection.
See, I think Edward would have just shrugged that off, but what it was Rangers in that mentality of I will stick one on him, let him know he's in a game here. He thinks he's going to come on and dictate it, and it backfired him. So see, we took the free kick and we literally scored off it. But see, before the penalty in the stadium, my mate that was with me, this is the first time he'd ever been to a Celtic Rangers game. He took the ticket that day with me, and I said to him before the penalty, I went, big man saving it here. And there was a couple of guys around us that turned around and were like, aye. You just had that feeling that he is saving this, especially when it wasn't Tavernier taking it. It was Morelos, and they only done it just to get Morelos that goal,
But either though, Phil, because if you think about it, if Tavernier's that fragile that he'll bow to a wee huffy bastard's demands just so he can get his goal against Celtic, do you think he's scoring a penalty past Fraser Forster? Absolutely not. And he maybe, David, breathed a sigh of relief when Morelos got all antsy about give me the ball. I bet you Tavernier, there was a bit of him that went, all right, actually kind of suits me.
Nah, you can have that, aye. Because if he's a real captain, this isn't about you, Morelos. This is about us winning this cup for Celtic. You're not taking the penalty. I'm the captain. I'm the penalty taker. Yeah. You'll get your fucking goal against Celtic at some point, but it's not the day because we need to. That's what a real captain would have done. No going. No worries, son. Get your penalty. Get your goal.
Yeah. Do you know what was one thing though that I did love about that final as well? And I don't know if this came across well on the television. Do you know what that cup final didn't have that pretty much every other football game has? Handshakes at the end of the game. Because as soon as the full-time whistle went, every single Celtic player, and as Russell said earlier on, that wee slide that Fraser Forster does when he runs out his goal, not a single Celtic player turned to a Rangers player and shook their hand and said, good game. They ran right to the Celtic end, fucking giving it large, because we dug deep. We were in the trenches that day, and the emotion just came out at the end. There was no fucking handshakes, good game, guys. Unlucky the day. It was proper shithousery, and it was like, get it fucking up. It was because, as Russell said, in the 90s, Celtic fans were fucking used to this shit. Losing after throwing everything at them, and it was like a huge release. That's why it's one of my favourites in that run of trophies that we had in that time.
And also the best 5-second clip for Lenny. Lads, off tomorrow. And everyone just goes, the whole dressing room just goes mental. That is a classic.
Oh, it's good, but that is without a doubt. Well, I say up there with Fraser Forster. That's one of Fraser Forster's great moments. But yeah, he's got a game named after him, literally, and he is pretty much the reason we won that cup.
What numpty was it in the media that said that Southampton should have been given that cup, and it shouldn't have been? They didn't deserve it because it was a Southampton player that won him the. Who was
Somebody
it again?
did. Yes, you're right.
You remember
Somebody
that?
did.
They were like, he was being serious. It wasn't even tongue in cheek. He was raging.
Do you know? It sounds like it would be Adrian Durham because he
sure
fucking hates us for some reason. He really hates us.
Southampton should be getting the medal. Fraser Forster. He's a
Durham.
Southampton
It was
player.
Adrian Durham. Oh my
Durham,
god!
What a nonsense!
See these knobs as well. These wee fat plant pots. I would love. Do you know what I mean? Not that they would listen to us. Imagine the opportunity though to bring him on and really educate him about how football works. Boise bus style.
Just explain your comments.
Fucking fun. Are we still live? Sorry, this time I speak backstage. I didn't know I was live.
No, it was Adrian Durham. When you said that, I knew it had to be somebody from the English media. It was him. He fucking hates us, man. He just, honestly, but we don't really like him back. So the feeling is mutual, Adrian Durham.
But
Fuck
that guy.
in regards to Fraser Forster's departure and his legacy, obviously he's left a few times over the piece, but obviously first time around we sold him for £10 million to Southampton, so he ended up replacing Artur Boruc in goal. Obviously it was one of those moves where there was the grass greener on the other side. He did obviously have a good run at Southampton in goal, but injury hampered him, and by the time he came back from the injury, Alex McCarthy and even the son of legendary goalkeeper Brian Gunn, Alex was even ahead of him in the pecking order. Massive fall for grace.
But bear in mind as well, we can't have it both ways. There is guys there, we have to bow to their knowledge. Day in, day out, they're equivalent to Stevie Woods.
Yeah, true.
It's decided he's actually not at it.
Aye. He did have one cup final that he played in. I've mentioned this before on the bus. This is the 2017 League Cup final. They lost to Man United and Zlatan Ibrahimovic scored the winner late on. But I mentioned it before on the bus because we were doing one of Bustalgia episodes. We mentioned England. And I says I've got a pure hatred for Teddy Sheringham because, again, Sky is obviously the national broadcaster, right, of football across Scotland, England, Northern Ireland, Wales. So Scottish customers pay for Sky, and Teddy Sheringham completely trashed Scottish football on Sky. They were doing Goals on Sunday from Wembley, and Chris Kamara, to his credit, stuck up for Fraser Forster in Southampton because they were going, Man United players, they got the big game experience, and Chris Kamara was like, well, the Southampton goalkeeper, Fraser Forster, he had many big games up at Celtic, and Teddy Sheringham was like, Scottish football, don't make me laugh. It's not the same up there at all, and just totally dismissed it. So that's always stuck in my head, but it was that final, but they ended up losing 3-2 in the end. So they did get to a final with Forster in goal, but that was, it didn't end how he wanted it to. Unfortunately, Zlatan Ibrahimovic basically stood up and made sure the United took the cup home. Yeah, took the cup home that day.
Eddie fucking Sheringham, do you know what
Makes
I mean?
you laugh, eh? Makes you laugh, eh?
Do you know what I mean? Peak of his career was Spurs. Do you know what I mean? Chris Sutton had won a golden boot. How many golden boots in the Premier League Teddy Sheringham won? Well, Sutton was there. That's Chris Sutton who the big club is. Fucking idiot.
Aye,
do you know what I mean? See all that nonsense.
Aye.
It's just ignorance. I mean, he's not quite Pardew, do you know what I mean? But, fuck me.
Honestly, they just never learn. They never learn. I say the second time around, we've touched on it already. Obviously, he came back for the loan spell. The season got curtailed due to coronavirus. He had the option where we wanted to keep him, but we obviously didn't want to stay. And you're right, Russell. He probably could see what was coming here with the sort of the coronavirus stuff. And
there was obviously, we need to get this right.
Yeah.
This squad was fucked. And everyone wants to blame Neil Lennon. And I know the account right now is getting a lot of traction. Siamese boy.
Oh, aye, Siamese boy, yep.
We all know we think that's the great pantheon. Don't tell the wee fella because he'll shit the bed. And you know what I mean? After, he got took to school. Oh, it wasn't the wee fella. I need to tell you, it wasn't Martin Riley. I was like, wee fella. That was Martin Riley. Yeah, it was, but I couldn't tell anyone, boy, saying, oh, fuck off. You're just a wee fucking blouse. Why weren't you even on the show, you idiot? Do you know what I mean? If you're going to bring on somebody you don't know, at least fucking have the cojones to at least go on and challenge him. Instead, he sends out the lawyer. He's not there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Mr. Riley, or Siamese boy, does bring interesting facts to the table.
For debate. That's what it's all about.
People don't like them.
Mm.
What were we talking about there?
We're talking about Forster leaving or having the option to
Aye.
come and stay, but we end up with Barkas instead because he went back to Southampton. Yep.
And he's basically said, he goes, look at what Barkas is doing in Holland right now. You know, wrong environment. But when Forster was leaving, you need to remember the environment. It all gets pinned that Lenny's created this bad environment, this toxic environment. I don't quite subscribe to that. I think you had a negotiator in charge, Liam, right? Who fucking thinks he knows more about football than he does. And he went, even keep them against their will, because they'll win as the 10. But players at Celtic against their will never perform. It doesn't work. It doesn't fucking work. And that was him trying to play director of football. People don't get that. People think this is Neil Lennon created. I think even if Neil Lennon's coaching skills might not be fucking Pep Guardiola, I can't imagine any player not enjoying working with a guy who's fucking is, you know, I think he'd be brilliant to work with. I don't really think that would be the issue. I think guys had just reached their expiry date. And they were all aware of it. And there was a few at the same time. And folk forget, Neil Lennon had the courage of his convictions to say it live. Remember?
Yep.
He said there's five guys who don't want to be here right now. And yet we didn't sell another player after that interview.
No, I think that situation caused a lot.
Left.
I think it caused a lot for Neil Lennon as well, personality-wise. I mean, he must have, you know, we all know he's had mental problems and things like that, depression and stuff. That's well documented and that. And I can't see how that environment could have helped him as well. Because he stopped signing Neil Lennon-type players, guys that he was able to motivate. You know, those people now complaining about the training and things like that, whereas you said, his guys were more, you know, willing to run through walls for you. Maybe not the best trainers, but certainly the best performers when it came to
but why can't you have the yin and yang, Liam? You know,
I think that's what we need now.
You know, you get if Neil Lennon was in charge with a brilliant first team coach that he got on with.
Yep.
That's caviar.
You got George Strachan. What's the opposite of caviar? You got road car.
Marmite.
But yeah, older Forster say he went back to Southampton to try and re-establish himself, and it didn't actually work. And as we've said earlier on, he ended up at Tottenham Hotspur the summer just passed there. But Fraser Forster's accomplishments at Celtic over multiple spells, he won 4 Scottish Premiership titles, 2 Scottish Cups and a Scottish League Cup. He won that Scottish League Cup. In terms of competition, though, as I said earlier on with Boruc, we're going to take into consideration, obviously, the Rangers teams in the competition he was up against, Forster, in his time, was a bit different from the one that Boruc was up against. We have to take into consideration.
Where are we going, lads? Where are we going?
So, now we're getting to
You're not telling me Fraser Forster wouldn't have managed to face that Rangers side after seeing
he would have.
Aye.
So,
the point he's making, though.
I know that's not the point he's making, but what I'm saying is I'm pretty confident in Forster's ability that.
But it's hypothetical, though. You're going down a hypothetical. It doesn't exist, though. Yeah. We're talking about facts. We're talking about facts. We're talking about
I understand that. No, I understand that, but all I'm saying is I know
David,
I'm confident.
I'm just doing what you do to the judge.
Oh, don't you worry. I don't bite as hard as him. I don't bite as hard as him.
So, David, we'll start with you. We'll go anti-clockwise round it. Artur Boruc or Fraser Forster, who is your choice out of the two?
I'm going with Fraser Forster.
Okay. On the basis of, or just
because he'd do quite well against that Rangers side back.
He would, he would have saved that Pedro Mendes shot in 2008. He would have got in and saved that.
He'd have saved that shot, neighbour. I just feel like, in all honesty, I saw more of Fraser Forster than I did Boruc. So maybe it's that might be playing a part of it. But I just feel the technique that we talked about, the presence he had and the size, what he's done in the game. Like I said, the guy pushed for England. He's got an English call up, and while he was still playing for Celtic, when it was apparently impossible to do that. I think he just.
But Boruc was in the best goalies at an actual international tournament, not sitting on the bench.
But he wasn't getting caught up to England, though. It was hypothetical.
Well,
He's not finished.
He's only 28. He's not finished. So Forster, that is.
I am going with Forster. I'm going with Fraser Forster.
There's no right or wrong answer. We're going to choose one or the other.
Liam. Go Liam.
Boruc or Forster?
I'll give you the right answer. There is a right answer.
Oh, there is a right answer. Okay.
It's the holy goal. Artur Boruc. And
Boruc.
I think so. My reason for that, he's played against some of the best players in the world, internationally, and outside, when we played in Europe as well. He's never in the big tournament. He was part of the big tournament. I'm not taking that away from. Well, I'm taking that away from Fraser Forster. I like Fraser Forster. I'm glad he happened for us, especially that second time. Love him for the cup game. But what Artur Boruc brought to that team was a energy and a passion and a wee bit of madness that our whole team could galvanise around. And I even love the story. The story's about him. There was a Polish couple getting harassed or mugged or something, and the holy goalie came to the rescue. It was in the paper.
Yes.
And so for all the antics, those everything about him, everything understanding our club, and embracing it a way that he did as a fan. You got to love that. And anytime a fan plays for your club, you love him. And the fact that we can get a fan for Warsaw, for coming from Poland, to embrace the club the way he did, that's why he gets my vote.
Liam, but did he do an open university for a business management degree in 2017?
Exactly.
Go back to me with Fraser Forster. It's his first Croatian cap. All right.
Fraser Forstervich.
Russell. Phil, I'm torn here, mate.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I'm really torn.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
it's a compelling argument, one would say.
Well, right, all right. Look, I'm acutely aware of that, pal. Right, but when I look at the optics of the two goalies.
Nice.
Do you know what? I want to say Forster because he's fucking Lenny's man, right? Mm-hmm. And I hate the hate that Lenny gets of the youngsters. By the way, you can be fooled by Twitter. You watch Twitter and you think every Celtic fan hates Neil Lennon. You come on the bus. Our demographic is 40s and plus, right? Nobody hates Neil Lennon. Twitter is full of 19-year-old kids. Do you know what I mean? Wanking over chewing the fat. Do you know what I mean? Thinking that's cutting edge. Do you know what I mean? Twats don't know fuck all about football. Half of them. Some of them do. Some of them don't. And you can be convinced then that Lennon's that bad that it makes me really defensive of him. Then I come in here and we all kind of have a pretty structured debate, and I look at the comments and I go, fuck. Because I'm mad. Right, I'll put it down to this. Who would I want on the Boise bus?
I know who we'd want.
I know who we'd all want on the Boise bus.
It's fucking done then. It's done. That's my goalkeeper. It has to be
Zaluska.
The holy fucking, do you know what I mean? No, it has to be Artur Boruc. And it's fucking it's tough.
Correct,
but I just think Forster's he's just a wee bit too tall for me to gain the truth as well. Do you know what I mean? He could actually bust me at some point here. Fuck that. Do you know what I mean? Whereas Boruc, whilst he might want to bust me, I'll just have a tequila in my hand ready at any moment to go, Artur, drinkies. And me and him will go great. But I think as well, I also think as well, see when it comes down to it, I think Forster, yeah, by the way, Alan,
100% record in
Tony Warner. I was contemplating my head thrown out as a funny suggestion, and I went, that part will go down like a lead balloon. But
there you go.
Actually, it was quite funny. But what I will say is, Forster, if he cared enough, could have stayed for the 10.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The option was there. And I am telling you right now, Artur Boruc, if presented in that opportunity, 1,000,000% doesn't go down to the EPL riches, or if he's back on a loan spell, Boruc would have understood the importance of the 10 and never in a million years have deserted Celtic. And would have got us over that bloody line as well. Do you know what I mean? Someone said bloody there, so I just said bloody. That's so weird. I just read that and said bloody. I never say bloody. I'm not fucking, do you know what I mean? Gordon Ramsay, do you know what I mean? Like, but we had to go over the fucking line. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
I think Boruc cared just a bit more about the club, and on his day, he's doing just as much, mate. Aye, it's Boruc. It's got to be Boruc. And he'd be on the bus. Aye, there's loads of factors. Easy, yeah.
2-1 on the panel then, and obviously for me, I came into this show when we put it together. I was like Fraser Forster all day, every day, but it's been a hell of a show tonight. I felt like the conversation's been good, the debate's been good, the chat's been mental, and it's so 50-50 with the chat. Boise, Boruc, Forster. It's really back and forth, but some of the arguments been put forward tonight have been phenomenal. So I came for both, yeah. But I did, come in just going, well, it's going to be Forster all day, every day. But man, some of the stuff that's been said about Boruc tonight is really, it's jogged my memory. I'm like, fuck, man, I remember all that. And some of the points we made, it is a real tough decision, this one, for me. I find that what you said there as well, but if presented with a chance of 10 in a row, Boruc would have done it. But again, that's the hypothetical of it.
You're talking hypotheticals here, lads. I'm not interested in hypotheticals. I'm wanting facts.
Exactly. So, both exceptional goalkeepers, no doubt about it. Both amazing moments. However,
revoke that. You got to take that point away from Boise. Doesn't he get that? I want a different argument.
On the basis of what I said earlier on
you
about.
You just took me to school there, David.
Those only those that deal with absolutes,
Well, I'll deal with an absolute.
True.
I'll deal with one. On the basis of what I said earlier on, all those trophies we won, that game against Rangers was one of my favourite ones because of that amazing performance. He's got a game literally named after him because of his performance, where it's like the Fraser Forster game. That for me, that performance was obscene. I've seen some good goalkeeper performances over the years from all sorts of different keepers, but that one was something else. But both keepers unbelievable, and I will not be shocked if this is a very close vote when I look at the one in the chat. But yeah, I'm gonna lean towards Forster very narrowly. But Boruc had me on the ropes there earlier on. He did with some of the stuff we talked about in the first hour. I'm like, man, Boruc, man, he was good. So on the panel on the show it's 2-2, but now I'll go and I will check what the score is in the live chat because there are 65 people watching. And I hope you've all got a vote in.
All I wanted to say was while you're doing that, Phil, is it safe to say, Boise, that your head might be saying Forster, but if you want your balls tickled, you're always going to go with Boruc?
I don't want to tell you who's under my desk right now. But there's fucking holy water everywhere.
well, guys, the final score is in. The final score is in, guys. 81 votes in the chat tonight for this poll, and it has ended up with Artur Boruc on 48%, Fraser Forster on 52%. Just. But my God, what a show it's been, guys. Phenomenal
proper debate, by the way.
Proper. I could feel it. This one was really...
See the pushbacks for Liam, David, vice versa, yada yada. Go try and find that with the squares. You know what I mean? Get your big fucking tub of vanilla ice cream, get on your burner account and tell them they're brilliant.
Oh no, you won't see that on a pod.
Fucking, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
this is some sinister shit we're putting on the table tonight, lads.
The thing is, see when we're on doing live, sometimes when you're on, you can sense with the debate and the interactions in the chat, this is really good. And I feel tonight, this is up there, one of the best Bustalgias that we've done. Honestly, this one was fucking brilliant, and the comments are backing that up right now with some of the things that have been said, guys. I think this is
it comes down to
a good one.
It comes down to this. Artur Boruc is my deep fried Mars bar, whilst Fraser Forster is my steady vanilla ice cream.
He was going to be. I thought it was going to be rolling. I thought you were going to keep it on the bus.
I thought it was going to be your pie on a roll.
Aye.
Aye.
But
Aye,
Did he tell
it's-
No salt on that pie. That's what it's if it's a Fraser Forster one.
Oh, hey, talking about salty. Honestly, fucking have it. It's not me who's salty.
aye, that's true.
It's not me who's salty.
Like quiz time.
Russell, guys,
Right.
enjoyed
Right,
yourselves
I've got
tonight,
one.
boys.
I know, fuck all that, Phil. Fuck
Aye.
off with that shite.
Aye.
I want to get Zaluska in there.
Oh, you dirty bastard! Yeah, had that since the start, you rat bastard! I'm out of here.
So, I've been.
Well, I can tell both of you. Lucas Zaluska's an
Leo's got
incorrect
one.
answer. Lucas Zaluska's an incorrect answer. He wasn't right.
Lies.
Number
Lies.
24. 24.
Lies.
Telling you.
Blasphemy.
Right, Phil,
Yes,
I think
Liam.
I've got one. I think I've
Go for
I've
it.
got one.
Karim.
No.
Bastard.
Right,
Number
okay,
23.
I've got one, but my theory's at the window now because I was going to say Zaluska, right? Because usually I thought I could have sworn he was 26, and so he's a number 2 goalkeeper, and Boruc was the number 1. He left, and then we brought Fraser Forster, and he became number 26 because I think the number 1 wasn't taken yet. He eventually gets number 1. Craig Gordon then comes in. Did he have the number 26? He had the
Craig
number
Gordon
26.
wore number 26 in Ronnie Dyler's first season.
Get in.
Wow.
Whoa, but my theory wasn't fully correct if Zaluska was 24.
Fraser Forster played the qualifiers against Legia Warsaw and Maribor and all that, and then he left, so the number 1 shot was vacant. But
Still-
by that
yeah,
point,
was-
Gordon was already number 26.
Yeah.
Craig Gordon is a correct answer. Yes.
Get in.
Well done, David.
I'll take that. I'll take
That
that.
Douglas was 20. He wasn't 26. He was
Douglas
20.
was number 20, that's right.
Yeah, this was number 26 in.
Sanchez Brotto.
Javier Sanchez Brotto is a number 26.
Yes!
Indeed. Yes, he is.
And by the way, that is I'm sure I've fucking went on this before, but who cares if I nearly half a litre of Morgan's. Listen, Sanchez Brotto was the answer. O'Neill had him, and
Yep.
for whatever reason didn't take him up. Sanchez Brotto was the answer. He was the answer in goals. He was the one with the not the big tag. You know, the Douglas had kind of built up at Celtic, I suppose, but built up as dodgy. Headman came in with the 75 international caps and couldn't live up to it. Sanchez Brotto was the boy who'd been humble enough to leave Malaga.
Mhm.
That's how you pronounce it, I think. And join Airdrie, then Livingston.
Yep.
He was working his career back. He was hungry. He was the guy with the chip on his shoulder. He was the goalie.
Mhm.
And
Aye, he was.
26. He was the
26.
goalie.
He was a
the answer, by
26.
the way.
Now, the three that are
Scott Bain.
left,
Scott Bain one? No.
29.
No, 29.
The three that are left,
Close.
two
that.
of them never even played a game for us. They were 2 loan signings that came in and never ever got a game for us.
The Belgian one, Logan.
Oh, Logan Bailey. No.
Logan Bailly's a correct answer, but he did play for us. He did play
Ah!
games for us.
Well, he was
Was
number
that
26,
your
was he?
He's number 26.
So two more who didn't play. Michael Herbert.
No, but I think you've mentioned one of them before on Bustalgia, Russell, where we've been talking about it's both of them are Neil Lennon era signings that we brought in a January window. And
Oh.
yeah, 26s, they got given that shot, but if you get them, fair play to you. But I know
Guzan.
one of them.
Guzan. Did we sign him?
No.
Never played, but we signed him.
There's two
Neil Lennon
goalkeepers
signings.
under Neil Lennon's first
Yeah,
tenure
who's that?
that we signed.
Oh, Chervy.
No, not Dominic Chervy. No. Oh, I think Patrick McLaughlin, you're along the right lines. I think it's one of the type of nationalities. Definitely a Scandinavian, one of them.
He was a big, tall lad. Oh. It's gonna. Is he a Swedish guy? No.
He might be Swedish. I know he's definitely from the Scandinavian countries. I know he is. Maybe Sweden.
Oh, fuck me, man.
But I say it doesn't help that the two of them didn't play, and I wouldn't expect you to know these firsthand. But I know that
Did you-
one of these guys is definitely
So
mentioned.
why
Russell.
make it your question, Phil?
Hey, come on,
Well,
Phil.
just-
Come on.
just
Eh,
for the
you're
bit-
slang.
You're horrible.
I know. For the bit. I mean,
Keep
you
this shit
definitely
for the
mentioned-
Mondays.
100%,
He's a
Russell.
nice
You've
guy.
mentioned
They all
one
think
of these
he's a
guys.
nice guy. Everyone thinks he's that keen in the tunnel with Vieira. He's a nice guy. You're not a nice guy, Phil.
You've
you knew
definitely
we wouldn't
mentioned
get
this
these
guy at one point. We've been doing Bustalgia. This guy's
I
name came up.
mentioned him.
You did, yeah, definitely.
Oh, fuck
Okay.
right.
This is
off.
gonna.
What the fuck?
I can't
If
even
Patrick
picture.
McLaughlin's saying he'll be here at 2 a.m., then that's a sign that this
The
one is too hard.
Scandinavian.
Yes. Do you want his initials?
Aye, go on.
VN.
You're taking the piss.
No. I think it was in Lennon's second season. He was brought in as a goalkeeper and never got a game for us at the January window.
I don't know.
Where'd they sign him for?
Norring.
No,
Swedish
I
guy.
I've never mentioned him, Phil.
You definitely have. You
No,
definitely
I've
have.
not.
I'm sure you did. At one point
No,
we
that's
did.
just lies. I've never even heard him till now.
No. You
Right, so there's still another one.
There's another one as well who's in the exact same situation as Victor Norring. He's a Slovakian, believe it or not,
What
that we
era?
signed. Lenin first era.
Oh,
Lenon's
fuck
first
off.
time.
Lennon had a great eye for goalkeepers, so he did.
Aye. So he came in and didn't play a game for us.
Revising that comment, David. We've got.
Yeah, no, no.
You're good at editing videos, eh?
Aye. Yeah, a Slovakian player that we signed for a French league team. Believe it or not. It's a weird concoction, but yeah.
Would he get on the bus though? But that's the real question.
No, probably not, because I didn't even, again, I'm just going by the Celtic wiki. I was just like, oh wow, I didn't even know that all these guys have wore number 26. I was like,
I don't have a fucking clue. What you're
Aye.
talking about.
Yeah.
So the final one, I say,
Come
doesn't
on,
help
Liam.
he didn't play a game. I could give you his clues, but I don't think it would even help. But the final one is a guy named Lubos. It's Kamenar, Kamenar, Slovakian guy that we signed and didn't play a single game under Lennon. Him and Victor Norring were two goalkeepers we brought in the January windows.
Did he sneak them in under his coat? I never fucking heard.
Never got a game.
This quiz was literally impossible, Phil. Basically, is what
Well,
you're
three
saying.
of them were
Three
doable.
of
You've got
that's
them.
actually generous in your opinion, eh?
You've changed, Phil.
That's
You've
how
changed.
bad we've got. Honestly, David, I'm dealing with the dark arts of Phil these
What a
days.
heel turn. We've had a heel
That's a
turn
bit of a
live
heel
on air.
turn. That is a bit.
See when he does
But
his
the other
interview
three,
with, see when he does his interview with Piers Morgan, I'm fucked. Put it that way.
that'll
right?
ever be happening. I'll tell you that much for nothing.
This is a-
Oh man.
Oh.
But yeah, that is the quiz out the way. So guys, yeah, it's been a fucking tremendous. I think one of the best nostalgias.
I
The
enjoyed that.
debate
Yeah,
tonight's
that
been
was-
phenomenal. The debate's been fantastic. Enjoyed yourself, boys?
I had a great night.
Well, that's what
Brilliant.
Liam.
Brilliant, Tim.
Aye.
Absolutely brilliant.
Aye, indeed.
Spectacular.
Yes, indeed. So before we wrap up, I'll just remind you, so tomorrow, obviously, Celtic are playing St Johnstone in the Christmas Eve fixture. There'll be PMP for that. And Christmas Day, Russell, any bus-related plans on Christmas Day?
Me and Jonathan are going to be steaming, full of food, and 100% revving up the bus. Of course we are. Why wouldn't we? Christmas Day gets boring at one point, and we're going to come on the bus, mid-afternoon. And it doesn't, don't worry, like, I'm not, if folk aren't watching it live, it's not like, oh, who the fuck were they? I get it, right? But, yeah, we're going to 100%, me and Jonathan, we got on proper well as well Christmas Day. It's our day, do you know what I mean? Like, it's me and Jonathan who, Christmas Day is special to us, do you know what I mean? Like, Dad and all that shite, do you know what I mean? It's just one of those ones where we get a bit sentimental and we get proper drunk and we fucking have it, do you know what I mean? And why not share a bit of that Boise magic with the rest of you, do you know what I mean? So we will be live Christmas Day. The two of us, he's going to sit right beside me in the apparently the attic. You know, I didn't even get judged off the wee fella any more than I already do. Do you know what I mean? For living in an attic, apparently. You know what I mean? He fucking obviously reads Harry Potter, so I'm that wee cunt. You know what I mean? But we will be live on Christmas Day, me and Jonathan boys, at some point. And apparently the judge was talking about, maybe making an appearance too.
Oh, nice. As I said the other night when I threw a name out there, the Boise Bus alternative Christmas speech, because Channel 4 used to do the alternative Christmas speech. So the Boise Bus's Christmas speech, there you go. Addressing the people. Yeah, Boise Bus's alternative Christmas speech.
Alternative Christmas speech.
Mm.
I'll need to start writing that down, man.
Yeah, but, that's the Christmas speech you want to be watching on Christmas Day, guys. Russell and Jonathan doing their thing. But yeah.
There's so much before that. You know what I mean? Tomorrow's huge now.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow's huge for the Celtic.
Aye.
We can't just go, I know Rangers are shite. I can hear wee French Eddie tapping about there. He's about to miss an open goal. I think that was his heel. You could hear there tapping there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's come bolting down the stairs.
But tomorrow's big. Tomorrow's a big day.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I love this time of year, by the way, for the football, Liam. I don't know about you, but for me, the Christmas period's what defines title races.
Mate, I've got another 4:30 kickoff tomorrow. Is it 4:30, 4:15?
We kick off at 12:30 our time, so it'll be 4:30. Aye.
An early one for me again in the morning. I love starting my day. Honestly, I get to the point where I'll start my day at 4:30. Going to see a game. You know, that's how I don't
your
remember
commitment
it.
to the cause is amazing, Liam. It's commendable, honestly.
What's that?
You know, your commitment to the cause to
I
get up and do that, brilliant.
And
Fucking brilliant.
So Liam basically, the last Celtic game that was at midday, Liam actually sent the group chat a walking video of him walking through Vancouver.
Right.
Like that was cool, mate. That was. I mean, I nearly did the same thing. I nearly did the same thing. Steamboats looking for a taxi in Dunfermline last night, but I didn't get the same ring to it. Do you know what I mean?
Right. I thought it'd be fun just to show you what I walk through to see what it looks like and how silent it is at that time to going and watching a football game. It's just a bizarre experience, you know.
What a place though you live in, mate. So
Brilliant.
cool. And that commitment to the cause, folk can never, ever, ever doubt. I think that's what it means to people, and folk don't get that all the time. Do you know what I mean? The thing, unless you're a season ticket holder and you're trying to rewrite words to pop songs, do you know what I mean, about a Celtic player that's been there for 2 seconds, you're not a real Celtic fan. Fuck it off.
No,
Nobody
look at
cares,
what
mate.
Liam's doing. Nobody cares, mate, exactly. What time then tomorrow for PMP?
After 6, I'm full shift tomorrow, mate. I'm full shift at work again. So
you guys look out for that. The link will be going up so you know where to find the PMP tomorrow evening after. Hopefully, we'll be celebrating a St. Johnston victory.
Well, it's Christmas Eve tomorrow. So what I will say, the floor is open to anyone on the Boise Bus, including French Eddie, who's
there he is.
Getting camera shy in the car.
French Eddie, top of the table.
Come on, you. There he is. But I love dogs, man. But anyone, if it ends up with 8 years on the post-match pitch tomorrow, all for it. We'll go live at 6:30 tomorrow. Jonathan will be beside me tomorrow as well.
Nice.
But Terry will be on, and anyone else who wants to jump on that's part of the contributors. I hate all that shit. You know what I mean?
The lads.
Contributors. We're just fucking Celtic fans who happen to have a bit of personality. That's all we are. And anyone who wants to jump on along with us, if we have 10 folk on, it could be a stream that goes down in history. You never know.
Could be. It could be.
If you can't join us tomorrow, Merry fucking Christmas.
Yes, indeed, everybody. Enjoy the celebrations over the next few days. Hopefully it'll be celebrating Celtic. 9 points clear at the I see we've got French Eddie on the screen, top of the table. Hopefully that'll be the case. But yeah, we're out of here. It's been an epic episode of Bustalgia, guys. Thank you everyone for getting involved and watching. Because once again we've kept you nearly midnight, so we appreciate it massively.
Thank you. That was brilliant.
Unbelievable show, mate. Honestly, brilliant. Great to be a part of it.
No worries at all, guys. Always happy to do it. So it's just bad to do. But yeah, guys, let's head off now. Let's get that engine revved up and head off into the distance. So again, thanks everyone for watching, and we shall catch you tomorrow for PMP.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.